Hello, it's midnight over here, so I am Swan. Hello all my owl watchers. Today I have what if Renesmee fell in love with her kidnapper's immortal demon son. For you. So tell me how much you enjoyed at the end of the video. Till then, let's see. Ashlyn and Maddox were greeting people as they came to the fortress that served as their home of solitude. They had no last name, just Maddox and Mrs. Maddox. They saw them talking to people as they pulled in, the second group behind them, and Ashlyn waved as they arrived. They nodded back and got out slowly. Their house was a huge gray fortress. They were surprised there weren't any dragons nearby but a whiff of the air, and they smelled horses. Next to them, a man and woman appeared. Wow. She laughed. What you doin'? Just got here, Carlisle answered, eyeing her with an amused look. But the man caught his attention as well. His face was scarred so badly that he didn't know what he'd look like without them, but he smiled and introduced himself. Carlisle Cullen. I'm Anya and this is my husband Lucian. The men shook hands. Anya went to Esme. My wife Esme, Carlisle told her. Esme laughed. Nice to meet you. They shook hands and Anya even kissed her cheek. Esme giggled. She's this way with everybody. Beauty and the Beast, Bella whispered to Edward, and he nodded. Where's Eva? Lucian asked the two, greeting everyone. Around here somewhere. Lucian. How was your trip? Rome was perfect, Anya said. We'll make those Greek jealous yet. Ashlyn. Anya took Esme's hand. Welcome to the fortress. This is Ashlyn and her hub, Maddox. Anya said, and Ashlyn and Maddox both chuckled. Anya was like a child, but she didn't seem to notice the difference or seem to want to grow out of it. She loved her husband that much was true and proven. Jasper felt it whenever she just looked at him. But then a yell interrupted them. Ow! You jerk! Ashlyn and Maddox both turned as someone was thrown out of the trees behind them and he rolled in the grass. He pushed himself up. Then four girls ran over and sat down as they narrated. The boy was tall and looked like Maddox, his son. He had a strong jaw and facial features. His arms' biceps were big too, like his father's. His blonde hair was flaked with black. He wore jeans and a t-shirt. He was barefoot. The cuffs of his jeans were a little dirty, but he obviously didn't care. A girl jumped out of the forest. She had white hair, but it was dyed. The roots were turning black like Maddox's again. Her bangs, however, were electric blue. She wore baggy green capris pants with pockets on her thighs and large ones below. Her shirt was a tight green that matched her pants almost. Her eyes were like her brother's, blue. She was beautiful as her brother was handsome. Edward saw Nessie trying to watch. Just then, before they could finish what they'd started, four younger girls ran up and stopped. They sat down in a row. Max gets the penalty for dropping his knife. Allison gets the point for picking it up. Max and Allison. They turned to them and they giggled, and two waved to Anya and Lucian, who smiled and waved back. Hi Daddy. Hi Mama. The younger of the two said. The other two twin girl about 6 or 7 and both were blonde but had dark eyes. Anya whispered to Esme. My babies, Evelyn and Leanda, the oldest two. Reyes and Danikas are the twins, Carlin and Tabby. Esme smiled. The four girls were pretty kids. Max spoke next. I did not drop it, I threw it. And I caught. I get the point. The referees even said so. They can't even hold a sword yet. Allison. Big baby, she said, and attacked first. He held up his arm and twisted around. She jumped and evaded his kick. Ooh, nice kick. Maxie and Allison are doing quite well tonight, aren't they? Leanda. Leanda nodded. They are. Evelyn. Did you see how he grabbed her ankle and tried to twist and break it? Carlin rolled her eyes and folded her arms. Yes, but she pulled it from his grip. Did ya see that? Leanda. Carlin. Tabby groaned. That was expected. Duh. Anya and Lucian chuckled and Tabby giggled at Lucian. They all burst into applause when Max was thrown over her shoulder and landed on his back. She knelt over him. Eva. Lynn and Tabby jumped up and tackled her down between his ankles. Maddox and Ashlyn laughed at her. We got her, Max. We got her for you. You cheaters, she said calmly. Maddox went over and picked up both girls and set them down. Max gave his hand and Allison took it. He pulled her to her feet. He held out his arm and she used it to keep herself standing. We need to do that more, I'm tired. Max rolled his eyes and looked at Ashlyn. We're done now. Ashlyn folded her arms. I hope so. You're on vacation, aren't you? So they tell us, mother, but it's never a sure thing, he replied and went over to the twins and pulled them to their feet with their hands. Allison took Leanda. Evelyn went to Renesmee. We're going to ride the horses, wanna come ride with us? She asked and held out her hand. Allison glanced at Max. He looked up at her, she smirked at him. They exchanged their own glances, as if they were talking. Finally he shook his head and she cracked her knuckles in response. Fine, she said aloud and Maddox looked at her. What? Fine, he repeated. She shrugged and took Leanda. Can we race Allison, Daddy? She said, remembering he was there, and Lucian knelt as Leanda went to him and Evelyn after her. They hugged him tightly. Next time, can we go, please? We missed you so much, she told him. Pouting, and Anya smiled as Evelyn went to her and wrapped her arms around her small waist. We'll consider it, he promised, and Leanda whispered to him about the horses. He touched her nose. I heard, my dear, he whispered back and kissed her nose, and she giggled and ran back to Allison, who waited as Ma X handed her the dagger and she slipped it into a holster on her calf. Maddox cleared his throat and nodded at it. Isn't that mine? You gave it to me, and besides you have, like, 20, she argued. Allison, I won't break this one, she promised. Ashlyn took her hand. Oh, just let her keep it, Maddox. We have several, she also reminded him, and with that Anya pulled off 3 of her own. See, we can add those to our piles. Maddox made a face and Ashlyn laughed at him. You're funny when you pout. Reyes and Danica here? Lucian asked to change the subject. Maddox nodded. Yeah, they're upstairs getting ready. He glanced back at the house. Which floor? 3rd. Maddox and Ashlyn answered. Ashlyn looked at Lucian. So, boss ready to not be all grouchy? Boss, Renesmee repeated to Evelyn. She giggled behind her hand. My daddy's the leader of the lords. Carlisle and Esme looked at her as she took Renesmee's hand again. Come on, we have 10 horses and our mare just had twins 2 days ago. Allison made a face. Eva, you stay from those foals. They're fragile, she called as she hurried after them with Leanda chasing after her. Anya held Carlin's hand until she switched to Max and he picked her up instead. She climbed onto his back. Tabby took his hand and Anya looked at Maddox. Reyes and Danica gonna take all night? I hope not, came Maddox's reply, and Ashlyn smiled at Esme. Reyes and Danica are actually kind of shy, but they're girls. The twins aren't. Emmett spoke next. Evelyn said, you're the leader of the lords. What does that mean? Anya smiled. Lords of the underworld sweetcakes. She laughed and Rosalie made a face at her. Oh chill, I have my own man, she said and wrapped her arm around Lucian's waist. The underworld? You mean hell? Edward asked and Lucian nodded. See, thousands of years ago, we were normal. Me, Maddox, Reyes, Turin, Paris, and several others. Well, something happened, the bad kind of something, and we were cursed with a demon. Each of us. Not to frighten you, but Min. E is the demon of death. It's my job to take souls to the afterlife. We were cursed because we killed a woman. It was my fault. It was not, and if you hadn't, Anya scolded. I doubt we'd met Lucian. You too, Maddox, Ashlyn whispered. Maddox's demon is violence. Reyes is pain. It was difficult, but we helped him to control his. Aaron was probably the most difficult though. Max caught up with Nessie and set his cousin down, although they weren't really related. They just say they are because it's better. They like saying they're all part of a family, makes them feel more important and cherished and loved. Ever ridden a horse before? Max. By the way, formal introductions are a bad habit we have. Nessie smiled at him. Renesmee, but you can call me Nessie. Yes, I have, twice, and I did all right, she admitted. The horse was small. I felt bad. You mustn't have brought it down. You look barely over 100 pounds, he noted. The stable, he said, and they headed towards a large wooden and stone building. The fence going around the horses' running grounds was made of solid metal and higher than normal. Why do you have horses? We breed them, he smiled. The foals will stay here for another few months and then be sold to the city or to farmers. Because the people think we're angels, he muttered. We get a lot per foal or stallion. Mares are less because they're female. Nessie stared at him. They think you're an angel. You look like one, Max, might as well admit it. He nodded. Yeah, we've lived here for several decades, Nessie, we've been alive much longer. Come, meet my sister for real this time, he added, and she smiled again as they girls ran ahead as Allison set a small saddle on a smaller horse. Nessie didn't know her breeds, but she suspected that they didn't either, and it made her chuckle under her breath. Up close, Allison was pretty and she looked happy. She turned when they entered. Nessie, my sister Allison. Allison, Nessie, he introduced, and Allison smiled at her and glanced at Max. He gave a look and Nessie knew they had a way of communicating without using words. Could they read minds like her father? She didn't know, but she also needed to know. Allison gave her a nice charming smile. Nice to meet you, Renesmee. I must apologize for our fighting, it's how we practice for the real thing. No need to apologize, Allison, my father and uncle do it all the time. We should do teams then, Allison smiled. They'd love to, at least Emmett would. Emmett is which one? The big one with dark hair. Allison nodded. Then the other guy is your father, the blonde is Jasper, my other uncle, she said, and Allison giggled. Edward, Emmett, Jasper, I like their names. Yours is incredible, she said in awe, and Nessie had to laugh. Max looked at Nessie. Ignore her, Nessie. Which is mine? Nessie's, and which do the girls get? The sisters were sharing a horse, 2-to-1, and then Nessie, Max, and Allison were getting their own, but Nessie got a mare. Allison said that she was pregnant. Oh, she won't try to just take off, and Nessie sighed with relief. Allison's horse, however, followed her every movement. Nessie asked Max about that. That's Memento Mori, her own special horse. He was the first one we got, and she spent hours out here, barely 8 actually, for the first few months. I swear she can hear his thoughts as he understands her words. Good stallion, he added, and Memento Mori hoofed the floor. Allison grabbed his long face. Hey there, she whispered, and he fell silent. There you are, my lovely, she whispered, and ran her fingers down from his forehead to his nose. Big bad Maxie scare you? I said he was a good horse, Allison. She's just teasing, Nessie said, and went to her mare. She heard Allison giggle. I like her, Max. It was supposed to be that she wouldn't hear them, but Nessie was part vampire after all. Stop it. You need her. She likes you too. Maury says so. Nessie felt herself blush. Yes, he admitted, but we only just met. So, remember when Mother met Father, she almost loved him right away. Our job will keep me away too much, he whispered sadly. Allison turned to him. So you do like her? He nodded. Of course you do, she's lovely, Max. She told him, and Nessie glanced back at them. Allison was smiling, clearly very happy for him. Go for it. Try anyway, why not like her if you can't try to love her? We're monsters, Allison. I can tell she needs normal. We are normal, with some twists. Evelyn went up to her then, and she spoke louder. What's up, Plum? Are we leaving tonight or tomorrow night? Her hands on her hips, she looked just like Anya. You get that sweet sassy mouth from your mother. I can tell. Allison laughed aloud. Nessie, are you ready? Yeah. Max, can you teach me how to make her move? She asked, and Max looked up at her. She saw Allison wink at her, and Nessie nodded when Max looked away. Of course, he finally said, and went over to her as Allison got the 2 pairs of sisters on their own horse. Why is she in front? She was last time. Eva whined. Because you're older, you get to let your little sister be in front, it's how it works. Sorry babe, you get back. Then I want to ride with you. Nope, she said sternly. Memento Mori, and I work alone, she said, and Eva didn't argue. Max turned back to Nessie and took her hand. Come on. Up you go, he said, and helped her onto the mare. Nessie was handed the reins, and she thanked him. You're welcome. To turn her, you only need to pull on the reins the direction you want to go, and heel her, gently of course. It's not that hard. At first it's a little nerve-wracking, but you get used to it. Maybe for you, she laughed nervously. What if I fall off? Lithium, this mare here, she's a damn good horse. I've never seen her buck anyone off. She jumped with a mouse once, but she was brand new. We got no mice here anymore, so don't worry. He put his hand over hers and he let it stay there for a moment. Eva and Leonda took off with the twins after them. Nessie and Max didn't even look after them, and all. Ison trotted after them and yelled at them to slow down. They did eventually. Max's horse went to him on his own and Nessie smiled and he held her hand for a second longer and then got on his stallion. And walked beside Nessie with her on his left. Allison. Around the pond a few times. He asked without looking away from Nessie. She called back that was the original plan. She stayed near the girls. ND kept them away from Max and Nessie as they talked about their childhoods. Well, I grew up in Washington State. My mom was born there but raised in Arizona. My grandmother, Esme, wanted a different change of scenery for me actually, and my grandfather, Carlisle, he gets offers all the time and we moved to here not a month ago. Esme thinks I need less dreary days and more sunny ones. Then she said, "They're vampires, Max." He nodded. You know. He chuckled. I'm old, Nessie. I mean not creepy wrinkly old of course, but I'm old enough to spot a vampire in a room of humans. What about you? Allison and we grew up in Europe. When the New World was discovered we ran away. My family and us, I mean. The 4 girls weren't born then, they are actually 10, 7, and 6 years of age. I stopped aging at 22, he said. Allison at 20 and we're actually just over a year apart born, I mean. He said and told his stallion to slow down. He and Memento Mori are brothers, he told Nessie and she giggled. The pond behind her. She kept her eyes on Max the entire time and they went around it 4 times before Allison held back and Max and Nessie looked at her. She pointed at the girls. Eva and Carlin, being in back, were laying down and almost asleep with Leonda and Tabby. Nessie giggled. We're done already. It's been almost an hour. Allison laughed. Wow, you must have been in deep conversation. Don't worry, Nessie. Max is super easy to talk with. Allison, take them and get them down. I'll handle the saddles. No, I'll do it. You put them. Max, don't argue with me, and beside Memento Mori won't let you near him anyway. I might as well. You two can help the girls down, she said, and they nodded as she clicked her tongue and Memento Mori ran ahead and she gathered the 2 smaller horses' reins and got them back to the stable. Max and Nessie got there just as Allison jumped down and unhooked Mori's headpiece and slid it off him and set it down. She nodded at Max to get the sleeping EV. Alan and he pulled her down and handed her to Nessie as Lucian and a man Nessie took to be Reyes entered the stable. He wore a black cloak and he was handsome. Are they all so handsome, or is it fate of theirs? She silled at the man and he greeted her. His name was Reyes and father of Carlin and Tabby. Here, I'll take her. Evelyn went from Nessie's arms to Lucian's. Hello, Lucian. Enjoying yourself so far? He asked her and she nodded. That's good. Were our daughters well behaved? Nessie nodded, and then admitted. Max and I spoke the entire time. Allison cared for them. Reyes and Lucian smiled as Max took the twins at once and she grabbed Leonda. Are we done already? Leonda grumbled. Daddy, you're here. She yawned and fell back asleep in Lucian's arms and Reyes bent down and woke Evelyn so she could walk, but Reyes took both of the twins and they grumbled about being tired. I know my babies. Sleep, it's all right. He whispered and Tabby reached up and wrapped her arms around his neck. He smiled. Nessie could feel his love for his girls as Lucian for his. She was surprised that a man like Lucian could find a woman to love him, but then Bella fell in love with a vampire. She truly believed that Anya and Lucian were a real Beauty and the Beast story. She smiled at them and Lucian returned it and Eva went to Memento Mori, but unlike with Max, he let the girl pet his nose and then she went after her father and uncle. Max looked at Allison. Thank you for letting me talk with Renesmee. Allison turned to him. Nessie went to her mare pretending to be unable to hear. Allison smiled at him and hugged him. I just want you to be happy again, my brother. She said in his ear, "Be nice to her and I see you very happy for a long time." "Isn't this when I ask her parents?" Allison cut him off. "Not if you want to return to the Dark Ages. Father turned away several men I believe who I could have been happy with, remember?" He nodded. "Don't forgive me, but don't let this man turn you away. I know your heart is pure and true." "You let me win." "I know you did," she added. "You hate losing but let me win anyway. Don't lose her because of Mr. Edward," she said and patted his cheek gently and kissed his other cheek and turned from him. "Come on, Maury. Let's get your babies fed." Max went to Nessie and she turned to him. "Walk with me." She nodded. Allison peeked over Maury's back as she watched Max and Tammy walk away together. She giggled and Memento Mori looked back at her. She asked him what was wrong and he pounded the ground angrily. "Oh Mori," she laughed, "Maxie knows what he's doing." She tapped his head gently. "He was a Mustang, but a huge Mustang horse. That just shows that he needs a big body to house his enormous heart. That's what she tells everybody." She led him over to the other side of the stable to where the hay was stored and grabbed a large pile and set it in a tin bucket for him, big enough to bathe in. She left him and began undoing the rest of the saddles from the mare, stallion, and the other two that the children used. Humming as she worked, she didn't notice Edmund and Marcus were watching her. She even jumped. "Sorry," Edmund said, frowning. "I thought you saw us but chose to ignore us." "I ignore people I like. I don't know you so I won't ignore you," she said and turned to the mare. "I'll brush you tomorrow. Tend to your foals," she said, and the mare walked down to END and grabbed the gate door with her mouth and opened it. The mare closed it the same way. Allison laughed. "Good girl Lithium," she called, and the mare neighed and then ignored her as she fed the foals milk. Memento Mori went to her, his hoods clicking on the ground. "I'm sorry, you're here for a reason. Something you two need or wish to know?" she asked. "What demon lives inside of your brother?" She turned to stare at them. "Ah," she said finally, "they told what we are." They nodded. "What kind of demon lives in Maxie?" "Well, there's violence of course that surged through his veins, but violence actually surges through all of us. Maxwell has the traits of my mother. He can hear your secrets. He wouldn't voice them of course, he's too girly." She giggled and tossed a saddle onto a table. She coughed from the dust. "Gross." Memento stopped running through the fields, she said tersely. Mori hit her with his nose and she stumbled forward. "That was rude," she said shortly, but he looked pleased. Edmund smiled. "Go on. You said he was girly." "Well, not the kind of girly where he's dressing in skirts and hose and shit. Nah, my brother is a man of men," she said proudly. "Protector," she said. "Your girl is probably safer with Max than she is with the gods." Edmund looked at Marcus. "What does Max want to do with her?" "You're asking a lot of questions, so I can assume they told you what my demon is." They nodded. "The demon of souls and lively futures. I hate mine," she said suddenly. "They think I know everything, but really I don't," she said and handed a carrot to Memento Mori. "Memento Mori, slow down, you LL choke and you have business to finish Buster. Anyway, Maxie, ah, yes. He just needs a friend, Edmund," she said and turned to face him. He and Marcus exchanged a look. "A friend? Why not you?" She laughed. "You really think Max, my charming and perfect enduring brother, wants to be my friend for eternity? God, I hope not. I can't stand the lug. I love him, sure, he's my big bro, but he needs Tammy and she needs him. I've seen them together. I know we're demons, but hey. Don't judge, you're vampires. The animal sucking blood thing doesn't appeal to us any more than it does to you, you know." Edmund frowned and apologized. "I forgive you. I'm also very sorry. I get my temper from my father. Violence around has ceased dramatically ever since the Middle Ages. Bartholomew is taking better precautions now. Another story for another time. The Black Plague, you're thinking it. Bartholomew caused it," she whispered and motioned for them to come closer. They came over to her, watching her carefully. She lowered her voice even more. "Yeah, sure, Your kind is responsible for several deaths over the centuries, but Bartholomew single-handedly caused the Black Plague that wiped out Europe. Vampires just cleaned up the bodies, sucking them dry because they weren't going to run, they were in too much pain. Bartholomew is the only one of us who'll be avoiding everybody. So many people here, he won't risk the chance of it happening again. Touch his skin and you die, that's all I'm saying. She held up her hands as if surrendering. She sighed and finished her bit on Max and Tammy. Max is special. She smiled. He's overprotective at times and love his parents and me, of course. If and I emphasize because it's between the hell no and duh lines, if they do fall in love, which I can't say if they will or not. Let it go, she said and went to Maury's other side. Love for demons likes us a gift, she told Edmund. It's hard for us to want to give in to our emotions because sometimes it's painful when they find out what we truly are and what we can do. They leave our lives and leave us to wither. Tammy might get emotionally hurt, but not physically, she assured him. And yes, I'm sure. I thought I read minds. I've been alive long enough to guess what a facial expression means. Edmund, he'll fly her to the moon and back if he could just have those minutes with her. Max is a good guy. Tammy is giving him a chance now. It's our turn. I understand you're the father and it's your choice, but dude, seriously. Back the hell off. Tammy's a big girl and if Max does hurt her, kick his ass. She even smiled. Going up against a vampire, she glanced at Marcus. Or two, probably even Mr. Jasper, might be good for him. Lithium, that's enough, she called suddenly. Edmund D watched her carefully for a moment as she brushed Memento Mori's coat. What if she gets hurt? If your little girl gets hurt, I'll lock Max in a room somewhere, tell you where he is, give you the MN key and you can have fun, because if Tammy gets hurt, physically, he'll probably deserve it. You'd do that? Marcus asked, dumbstruck. Allison looked away from them. We know better than to hurt someone. He'd do the same thing to me, she told them and walked Mori away. They turned when Reyes entered. He looked upset. Allison, none of the kids will go to sleep, please tell me why. Probably because you TLD them too, she said, and Marcus chuckled. It's late. All right Daddy Reyes, I'll tell them a story. That's what they want, he asked, not really surprised but still annoyed that all it would take was a bedtime story. Hell, I could do that. Not my stories. They need their nightly dose of Cousin Allie. She giggled and locked Memento Mori in the pen and turned to Reyes. If you like Uncle Reyes, you can listen in. Did they have the blanket ready? He nodded, looking confused. All right, Anya is a goddess, I'm a demon. Let's get this story crackin'. Allison laughed happily. Max and Nessie had left the stable and went to the pond. Nessie gasped at the gazebo in the center of the pond. The path to it was rock, connected together with concrete poured over it and then set in the water. Nessie didn't care now how the rock stayed on the surface of the water. She didn't care. Max and her were alone. They got to the gazebo shortly and he took her hand as soon as he could and she entwined their fingers. He smiled at her and they went to the railing of the gazebo. He took a deep breath. My father and Reyes built this. Really? He nodded. Back when it was just Maddox who was married, Lucian met Anya and they fell in love. They built this as a wedding present. They were married on this gazebo. And you said you've been here for a long time. How long exactly? I lost track, he admitted, and Nessie giggled. How old are you? 17. Then I'm too old for you, he teased, and Nessie took his other hand and put his palm against her cheek. She shook her head slightly. You'll never be too anything, she whispered, and he stepped closer to her. He took her by the waist and set her on the railing and he stood beside her. Nessie took his hand back and he stepped closer to her. Tell me more about you. He glanced at her. Favorite color, hobbies, getaway destination, she suggested. He chuckled. Green, he said. I like the color green because it's calming, and as a demon, we need calm sometimes more than people think. I love to read and I fight on the side for special circumstances. I'll tell you sometime, but not tonight. I rarely help Allison take care of the horses, he added. Nessie smiled. I love to be anywhere in Europe. It's where we were born and raised, I feel comfortable there. Your turn. Same questions, he said, and Nessie stared into his eyes. They were deep blue ponds. She smiled at him and she felt her heart flutter. Nessie cleared her throat and looked behind her. I love the colors purple and red. My own hobbies are reading and being around my family. And, she blushed, I'd be anywhere you are, Max. Max stood up straight. He didn't expect that, she was sure. Nessie, I'm a demon, I don't know if we should. Can't I be the one to decide that, Max, please? It's my body, your safety on the line. My choice and I want you. Nessie, I can be dangerous. I doubt that when I'm with you, I feel safe, Max. She whispered. He turned away from her. Max sighed. If you hurt, I'll deal with it. I've been through worse, believe me. He spun to face her. What do you mean? Nessie got down from the railing and went over to him. There's these vampires, she said, and went past him to look towards the fortress. They're mean. When I was physically around 7 or so, they came to our home. We had gathered several witnesses to say I wasn't a threat or a mortal child. That's a child, bitten and turned by a vampire. He nodded for her to continue. They came to our house and the werewolves had signed allegiance with us for that. Jacob was supposed to take me far away if something went wrong. Who? She looked back at him. Jacob Black. He's a werewolf and he's the best there is, Max. He's so kind and caring. He imprinted on me when I was born. I haven't seen him in a few years. Sorry. He looked away from her. She belonged to someone else, and not only that but a werewolf. How could he take her now that he knew that? He knows imprinting. Maddox kind of did the same to Ashlyn. Nessie shrugged. He left. I'm not that upset anymore. Stupid idiot. I mean, I understood why he had to leave, but now I don't really care because it was for the best. Now he's not keeping me from being with you, Max. He might return for you. I doubt it, she said. They were silent for a few minutes. She saw Reyes go into the stable. Max did too. She faced him. They came to kill me, Max. He looked up at her, his eyes turning color. They came to kill me if I wasn't what they thought. He said he would have, but I showed Arrow what I wasn't like and he agreed to let me live. If they decide to come near you again, Nessie, you come get me first. She didn't answer him. Max looked past her. Allison was walking out of the stable with Edward, Emmett, and Reyes behind her. Story time, he supposed. Come on, we need to calm down. He took her hand and they walked back to the fortress. Allison saw the 4 girls lying down on a large brown blanket and she took her spot before them, her back to everyone else. She put up her hair in a hair band and the girls giggled and went to their stomachs. Awake, they held their heads up on their palms and smiled, their dainty feet in the air. Allison cleared her throat. Which one tonight? Stars. They thought about this before she arrived. She chuckled. Very well, she said, and she sat up straighter and crossed her legs and held her hands on her knees. Evelyn beamed at her. This is what she did every time she told them a story. It was a tradition almost for her. Allison cleared her throat and her voice became different. She became aware of the noise dropping and feet moving towards her, but she blocked it out. There was this man. He lived alone in a forest long before time existed and when they thought that everything was really, truly connected by the gods and goddesses that shaped our world. Demeter gave the harvest and Hades kept the souls guarded or locked away, depending on which side you'd been on. The gods always looked down upon these mortals, or humans, and saw them cherished and pleased. This man was neither. He was alone in the forest, in his cabin that he built himself and kept going, alone. Rarely venturing into the villages miles away, he stayed home, tending his home and his land that the gods had given him. Beside his home there was a stream of crystal clear water that came from a beautiful waterfall miles away and traveled to the village that the man grew up in. This man, he was tall, the kind of man where the women wanted him and would do anything to have him. The kind where the men wanted to be him and would give anything to be such a man as he was. He was kind yet firm, strong, yet weak in the knees when it came to animals and such. Eva giggled. He was a harvester, a caregiver, a fighter, a soldier. Years of serving the gods. He was alone now and he didn't care. He preferred it that way. He protects and loves his home, he'd give it up for naught. He walked one morning past the trees that sang to him and an uneasy wind, trying to drive him from his path. He listened rarely, to creatures around him. But today, he listened intensely and followed where the wind was forcing his feet to go. He came to a bridge he once built but because he never used it. It was simply forgotten. He looked up and the clouds parted, giving sun's light to a spot beside the bridge. His air escaped his lungs, his knees trembled and he held firm a branch, beside him. The most beautiful woman lay where the sun touched her precious skin. Her skin looked fragile. Her hair was the color of gold. He was certain she was a goddess that I bed the sun for her rays to serve as her golden locks that trailed down to her waist. Of course, lying in the soft grasses by the gently and silent stream, it lay like a halo around her head. From his distance, even he could see the color of her lips, the color of red rose petals. He stepped closer, but slowly. He saw her dress. It covered her body like silk made from the clouds, surely because no dress was so clean and delicate. Only the clouds could have given her such a dress. She was barefoot, her arms bare also lay at her side. She looked like she'd fallen from the heavens and you or she had anyway. Who could such a woman be there unless if she had indeed fallen from the gods' realm because she had done something wrong. Only way to punish a god is to make them walk like immortal. Allison stopped there and the girls inched closer. The wind made him move closer and he went slowly. He feared that as she was a goddess, waking her could ensure his death. But how could a man like he leave such a woman? How dare he leave her there for the animals or another man to take her? As far as he was concerned, she belonged to him now. Goddess or not, but deep inside his heart, he vowed to let her leave if she wished to leave. He was a soldier, not an evil man. He didn't know how to be cruel to such a woman. He didn't wish to learn how. She spoke softly. The wind stopped as soon as he touched her and he knew. They brought him to her. She did perhaps belong to him. He did not know. He wanted to but didn't dare ask to be certain. His voice was rough from years of silence. Remember, he lives alone and if he spoke to the animals or just aloud, the gods might think him crazy, insane, incapable to living anymore. He picked her up. She was so light and she fit against his body so perfectly, he had to smile. He carried her through the trees again and on the path towards his home. At his cabin, the door opened as he reached it and he whispered a thank you to the hand of his master. RS for their help, and then he felt alone again. The gods were done assisting him. He set the woman down, whoever she may be, on his bed and covered her with his fur blankets. He stepped back and Lee stared in awe at this beauty of a woman. Indeed he wanted to keep her. Of course nothing would please any man more than to have such a woman at their side, in their arms. The man had just turned when from the corner of his eye he saw her raise her hand. Her fingers were long and slender. Everything about her screamed beauty, grace, perfection. He went to her side and knelt beside her. She opened her eyes and he sighed. Her eyes were the color of blue and so beautiful they were. He smiled. He looked at her lips and her eyes again. He began to reach forward but stopped himself. When she smiled at him, he fell back. Oh, gods, he was already in love with her and he not know her name. Tell me your name, my lady, he asked. She looked away from him and his heart shattered. Her eyes grazed his omen back to him again and his heart skipped a few beats as it began to work once again. Aurora, she said. My name is Aurora and I am the daughter of a god immortal. He figured that much and now she confirmed it. I found you, he whispered so quietly she could barely hear him. I found you, Aurora. He stopped. Her name on his tongue was like chocolate. He smiled at her. I found you, Aurora. He tried again. In my forest, and I brought you to safety here in my home. Then he kept his promise with a change. I will not let you return to the village until you are well. Aurora nodded slowly and she sat up. Her golden hair fell over her shoulders and crawled to down her back. You saved my life in so many more ways than you can imagine, my savior, she told him. I was banished from my home by my mother's true husband. I am stuck here and thus placed under a spell to be asleep until found by the man who'd love me. Then I am that man. He almost shouted, and, my goddess, I rescued you from the forest, I brought you to my home and woke for me. I am yours and you are mine unless if my appearance is not what you wish, then I will take you back to the village. His heart shattered when she stood, not rejection his offer, but accepting it. Taking it into consideration, he feared her next words and wished her voice gone. He shook that from his mind. If her voice was lost forever, he'd surely die. She went to him and took his hand and placed them on her face. You saved me with the help of the winds. He nodded. Then I am meant for you, my soldier. For I have loved you for a long time. You must be mistaken, we just met. Yes, true, but I have been watching you. In battle you slay enemies but saved your friends and I kept you alive. My father brought me to you. We will marry someday, my soldier, and we will return together. He frowned. My Aurora, my home be here. I wish to stay here with my cabin, my stream with the waterfall. The animals, and even though I never go there, I would miss the village terribly. Aurora took his hand. Her dress made of clouds swayed at her feet as she rose on her toes and whispered in his ear. I will go wherever you go, my soldier. He picked her up by the waist. We Ari, and we will go to wherever you wish. You are my bride someday, for pretend, you are now, and I live to make sure you're happy. Only you, Aurora, matter to me. The gods gave me to you and you to me. We have a purpose, Aurora, we will find it out together. Then we stay here. The man and Aurora smiled, and when he kissed her for the first time, something happened, and that something made the fire lights dance around their heads. When Aurora held her hands around his neck, the fire danced and more were created. The wind came and swept the fire out through a window. They broke apart and ran outside. They looked up and gasped. Did I forget to mention that no stars were in the sky? This is how the stars were created. They were created by the sparks from a real true love's first kiss. From then on, whenever a truly paired meant to be share their first kiss, more stars are created and the wind sweep them away before they are seen. Allison took a deep breath and stood up. The people behind her applauded and the 4 girls clapped. That was great. I love that one more than the others, Allison. Eva got up and pulled Leonda to her feet. Were there stars for our mom and dad? Of course, she said and looked over at Lucian and Anya. They smiled and kissed. Carlisle held Esme against his side and smiled. Allison bowed and went to her brother. He smiled at her. I like that one more than the last one. Thank you, Torin, she whispered, seeing him, and went over to him. Max went back to Nessie and they held hands as they returned to the pond's side, a few yards away from Allison and Torin. Are they together? Nessie asked. Max looked over at his sister. He shook his head. Torin is her greatest friend. He's told her great stories himself, he said. Tell me more about the men. Like what? Where do they live? How do they hunt? Don't even consider going to them, she growled, and he turned her to face him. I know you're strong, Max, but they're so powerful and they have friends that can make you go blind and deaf, make you feel so alone, and I won't let you risk your life for that. They nearly killed my father once, before I was born. If Bella lost him, she'd be lost. If they lost me, I don't know, I couldn't. If I lost you, Renesmee, he whispered and cradled her face gently between his hands. I'd find you, wherever you are. They heard someone yell and he looked up to see Allison on the ground. Maddox, Torin yelled. He was trying to pick her up, but he was afraid to infect her with his diseased touch. Maddox shot through the crowd, but Allison pulled herself away from him. There was something on her hands and he saw it was ashes. They didn't fall or disappear. What happened, Max? She cried, and he went to her. It's bad. It's really bad, she cried. We have to go now, she yelled, and he picked her up by the waist. He didn't have time to return to Nessie. Maddox went to Ashlyn, who was crying. Allison, don't go. It's bad. It's so bad. They're so scared. I can see them. Oh God, there's so many. She held her hands over her face. Alice was suddenly grateful her visions weren't like Allison's but felt terrible. She moved forward but Carlyle took her shoulder. Max pulled her forward. Where are they, Allison? Spain. A village in Spain. There's a fire, Max. They said it. We have to go or they'll die. She cried and he nodded. Maddox moved to touch Allison. But she jumped away from him and she clapped her hands, her body shaking as a hole in the air before them opened. She held her hand, facing it. She jumped in immediately and pulled him in after her before he could look at Renesmee. She went to Edward and Bella. Carlyle looked at Lucian. He was stiff. What's wrong? Allison has visions of things happening as they are. Right now she saw a fire in Spain. Anya, you're staying here this time. I can feel the pull already. Who? Maddox asked with Ashlyn was hiding against his chest, his arms wrapped and locked around her. I don't know, Lucian whispered. Anya leaned against him as Evelyn and Leonda went to them. Carlin and Tabby moved to go to Reyes and Danica. They were frightened. Allison had never been so shaken before, so close to tears when he hasn't cried in over 3,000 years. Nessie walked around the yard for nearly 3 hours, just in a daze. Edward's eyes followed her, or Bella's or even Carlyle and Esme's. Alice kept an eye too. She looked scared but she wouldn't admit it. She was slightly stubborn and stupidly brave. Twice Anya went to her and told her that Max and Allison will be back soon, but then 20 minutes would pass. Lucian refused to leave until Max and Allison returned and demanded Anya to leave them alone as well. She nodded. The girls were inside, asleep on the couches huddled together. Finally, the me-hole opened and the strong smell of smoke and flames followed Max as he held Allison's hand. They were covered in ashes and wood and brick pebbles. Her white hair was now black with soot but she didn't seem to care. Their skin was coated with the black soot as well. Her arms were bleeding slightly and the scent of burning flesh followed them as well. Max's hair looked shorter as did Allison's. His shirt was torn on his torso and hers was barely holding on, but someone had given her a jacket. They looked exhausted and so awake Nessie saw the pain on their faces but Jasper felt it. Edward looked at him. They were devastated. Edward read their minds. The fire in Spain had been started by a guardian of the building, trapping dozens of people inside, all of them children under the age of 15. Nessie moved towards Max but it was Maddox who took her arm and shook his head. Allison looked at Ashlyn but said nothing. Finally he spoke. 3 words. No one survived, Max said to Maddox and I. She caused Allison to fall against his side. With her knees giving out, he picked her up and carried her inside. They disappeared upstairs. Ashlyn turned to Maddox but he was looking at Torrin. Go look and see what happened in Spain, Torrin. I need to know. I'll go too, Carlyle said and he followed Torrin into the fortress. Everyone else went to Maddox. No, everyone leaves Max and Allison alone. He glanced at Ashlyn, then he admitted. They've never come home like this before, please, let them rest first. Allison was carried into her room and Max stared the shower for her. She was shaking. How could we have let them die, Max? She whispered. We failed them. No, those humans failed them. We tried, Allie, we tried to save them and we failed, but we tried. And we failed. She yelled. They're dead, Max, all of them, and what do we do now? She yelled and he shut the water off for now. We let them die, Max. No, he shouted. We did what we could, Allison, we did everything. If we did everything then they would be alive, and if we'd done everything, where's the proof of it, Maxwell? She shouted back at him. There is nothing but dead kids, Max, dead. All of them are gone and now we have nothing to do. Bury 87 kids no older than 15 and the youngest Max. She laughed loudly without humor. The youngest was 3 months old. She was probably the first one to die, don't you think? Tiny lungs, filled with smoke. Stop it, Allison, we did the best we could. Well, we didn't try hard enough, she yelled. Max was sure someone downstairs heard. They were innocent. They are the reason why we exist, Maxwell. Children don't deserve to die like that. They'll go to heaven, not hell, Allison. I know it. Damn right they will, she growled. The demon showing in her face. Her eyes became red and her skin darkened. Max hurried to her and grabbed her shoulders. Maddox's temper was reborn within Allison. They knew it, and it was Max who ceased the power. She pushed him away. "Don't get out," she added, and she turned the water back on. He wasn't out of her bedroom when he heard the water hitting her, and then he heard her crying for the first time in over 3,000 years. Max went to his room through the adjoining doors they had for work purposes, but it couldn't be opened unless if both locks were unlocked. He relocked his and showered as well. He exited about 20 minutes later and dressed in jeans and long-sleeve shirt. On the adjoining door, there was a knock, and he opened it to find Allison dressed in gray pants and a black turtleneck. She usually wore the turtleneck when in mourning or sad. He hugged her tightly and she held her cheek against his hard shoulder. They left through her door and went downstairs. Everyone was outside still. They went to the 4 girls and woke them up and took them upstairs to go to bed. It is almost dawn. They all needed rest. Maddox and Ashlyn saw Max and Allison come from the girls' bedrooms and then come downstairs. Allison looked up at Ashlyn and ran to her. "Mommy." She cried without shedding a tear. Ashlyn looked at Maddox. "What is it, son?" Maddox asked him. Reyes and Torin, Danica and Aaron, everyone gathered without being seen. Max and Allison exchanged looks. There was a fire Spain. A tiny village. He hesitated. There was this orphanage. Out of nearly 100 people, only 10 lived, he said and bit down on the inside of his cheek. Allison growled. The survivors survived because they set the fucking fire. Ashlyn shushed her. Allison fell against her mother again and Ashlyn wrapped her arm around her waist and they walked to the couch and she curled against her mother. Maddox stared at Max. He nodded. 87 children gone, he said. Not one of them survived. Ashlyn held her hand over her mouth. Why would they do something like that? Why else, mother? Max asked. Money. Maddox's face hardened. Allison pushed herself away from Ashlyn and pushed past everyone, in the house, and outside and went to stable. She closed and locked the door. A sign to even Edward to leave her alone. Max however ignored her rules and began to go towards the stable, but he saw Nessie and went to her instead. She took his hand. Come on, Max. We'll go for a walk, she whispered, and he let her lead him away from the house and to the gazebo. She led the way on the path and told him to sit down. She sat beside him and he lay on his back and she cradled his head in her lap as he stared up at the roof and her fingers played with his hair. She looked over at the stable and saw the lights go out finally, but the horses were mostly asleep already. Was Allison going to sleep in there? She was almost sure she was. Max reached up and touched her face. Want to tell me what happened? No, he said and lowered his hand. You don't need that in your mind. I'll find eventually. Something like that is sure to make news. He sighed. Promise me, you won't listen or watch. Nessie frowned. Please. He looked up at her. She smiled down at him. I promise, she said finally, and he went back to looking at the roof. She looked up at it too, trying to see if the children are up there, in the clouds. He nodded. Oh, Max, sweetie, I'm sure they are. How can you be so sure, Nessie? He asked delicately. Nessie smiled. Because children are nothing but made of innocence, she said. They give people like you and your sister hope and praise. Look at your cousins. They refused to go to sleep, but they are young. They gave in when my grandmother told them a few stories. Children make the world go round. I thought it was hugs that did that, he said, trying to make himself laugh. But it didn't work. She smiled however. Nessie, he sighed. I work for a secret organization that specializes in paranormal occurrences like this. The center of demonic activity is a dangerous job. Then don't do it. I have to, he said and looked up at her. He sat up to face her better. Allison and I, we do what we do, because we save people. We're trying to redeem ourselves. Tonight we failed. No, Nessie shouted. You did not fail. You did everything you could, she said, crying. It's those people who started the fire that failed to protect and save those children. Max stared at her carefully. Nessie grabbed his face and moved closer to him. Max, you are an angel among demons. I know it. I can feel it. She whispered. He used his thumbs to clear her cheeks. Nessie, you are everything I'm not. He whispered, smiling, and she kissed him first before he could pull away. Her arms wrapped around his neck and she moved closer to him and he sighed and his went to her waist. Renesmee felt his arms snake under her legs and he pulled her against his chest and onto his lap. Allison closed and locked the stable doors. She shut off the lights and went to her little office and sat down in the dark. Her turtleneck was making her warm, but she ignored it. She kept the sliding door open and she could hear Memento Mori hitting the ground with his hooves, but for the first time since she got him. She ignored him and his noises. She reached down into a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of wine her father didn't know she had stashed because no one came in here besides her. She used her teeth to pry the cork from the bottle and drank from the bottle without a glass, although she had that as well. She was able to disguise a mini fridge as a cabinet quite easily. Anya helped her 2 months ago. She dipped in her chair and now her throat burned with the alcohol, but she swallowed some more and ignored it. It didn't take a lot to get her drunk. She found that out several years ago. When she and Max took a vacation to New York City for New Year's weekend back when they felt they were safe to be without Maddox and Ashlyn. She saw the surroundings were a little fuzzy, but she ignored it and took a sip. She coughed as it went down but forced herself to swallow. She heard Memento Mori neigh loudly and she got up, but it was hard because now her wine was half gone and she was drunk. She grabbed the door frame, she leaned her head against it and saw Memento Mori on his hind legs. She heard something growl. "Stop it, Dad," Allison grumbled. "You're scaring my horse." Memento Mori. Whoa, she sat down on the ground. "Calm down. Go to sleep." Her eyes closed, but something in front of her face kept her from actually falling asleep. "Stop it, Max." She pushed a face away and turned. As she went to her chair and crawled into it and curled up. She found her bottle and drank some more. "That's enough," she heard someone say. "Jerk. Give that back." She opened her eyes, but the darkness was covering her and she didn't know who was talking, but it sounded male. She reached out for the wine, but a hand grabbed her wrist. "I hate you, that's mine." "You're drunk." "I want to be." Bad day." She grumbled and tried with her other hand, but everything was so terribly hazy she missed by several inches. "What happened, kids?" Allison sighed and moved so her legs were hanging off one side of her chair. "All dead." "I want to forget." "Give it back," she begged. "Please. If you take a walk." "I can't." "You'll ride a horse," he said and stood and told her to grab onto his back, and she did. Before she knew it, she was riding Memento Mori without his saddle and she leaned over him and her face buried in his mane. It smelled like oats and fresh air. Allison drained the rest of the wine and her eyes shut and she dreamed. The bottle. She didn't know what happened to it, but when she cracked her eyes the next morning she was still dreaming. She groaned. Her head hurt terribly. Beside the table were Aspire and water chilled in a small bucket of ice. Allison coughed and took the bottle and opened it. She took 2 and drained the water bottle within 5 minutes. She heard a door open and she looked over as a man entered. She sat up. "Who the hell are you?" He looked up. "Good morning. Are you all right to walk?" To see for herself, Allison got up and nearly fell, but she caught herself and sank to the floor, carefully. "Guess not," he said and went over to her. "Where's my horse?" she murmured as he picked her up and set her back on the bed. He tucked her under the blanket again. "Memento Mori is fine. He's right here." She looked around. "What? I want to see him." The man chuckled and took her face and turned it until she looked at him. "You're looking right at me, Allison." Maddox and Ashlyn got up the next morning as Tabby came into their room, her hand over her eyes. "Hey guys, Uncle Maddox." She poked her head in and then her body. She wore a spring-colored dress and brown slip-on shoes. Memento Mori and Allison are gone." He looked up at her and chuckled. "It's all right, honey." She lowered her hand slowly. "Okay. Now say that again." "Horse and rider are gone. They've been gone all morning. No one saw them leave." Ashlyn opened her eyes, tired of pretending to be asleep. "She stayed out there for the night. She probably took him out after we went to bed." You mean, after I went to bed Ashlyn, you never slept? She thought she was more sneaky than that. She shrugged and sat up. She wore cotton pants and one of Maddox's t-shirts. Maddox just had a pair of pants on for pajamas and no shirt, whatever. She grumbled and Maddox glanced back at her as she got up and she stopped and turned to him. I'm sorry. I've never seen Ally so upset it scared me. Maddox got up and went to his wife and hugged her. Tabby bit her lip and Ashlyn held out her hand. Tabby hurried to them and they included her into their hug. Max showered again and dressed in jeans and baggy t-shirt. He had his father's body, manly, protective, strong, appealing to the eye of women everywhere he went. Nessie had gone home with her parents although she begged to stay with Max, but eventually Max convinced her to return. He and Allison had to return to their headquarters for debriefing and it usually took all day anyway, so she caved and left with Edward and Bella. He slept terribly, knowing that Allison was alone in the stable, probably passed out in her chair by now. Max went downstairs and drowned himself in water from the tap and set the glass down. Evelyn came into the kitchen and wrapped her arms around his waist. He looked down and saw her hiding her face against his hip. He patted her head and tilted it back for him to see. What's the matter, Evelyn? Memento Mori and Allison have been gone all morning. We got up and they were gone. Even then, Max frowned. The girls got up pretty early too. He frowned and he walked from the kitchen, passing Anya and Danica. Where's Allison? He asked as he passed them. They shrugged and Anya shifted to the stable. Shifting is the fancy way of saying they teleported. Lucian and Anya both shift. Danica raced outside with Max and Tabby to find themselves short a next generation and a horse. Anya went into Allison's office and came back with the empty bottle. This isn't good. She must have taken Mori out. Oh shit, Allison can't hold her alcohol worth a penny. He went to his horse and grabbed a set of reins and without a saddle he took off with his horse. Tabby ran after him for a moment then stopped. Where are you going, Max? Tabby yelled. To find my sister. Get Torin on the cameras. He shouted back at them and Danica nodded and took Tabby inside as Anya went to find Lucian. Torin's hands shook slightly as he rewound the tapes and pressed play. The stab. La didn't have a camera but there was one facing at the door in the field the horses roamed. They watched as they saw Allison being carried out on someone's back. He was tall and athletic looking until he turned into Memento Mori, that is. Allison didn't seem to have noticed. Max's grip on the neck of the wine bottle tightened enough that it cracked under his hand and Maddox told him to let go and he did eventually as Anya and Danica cleaned up the glass as the man carried Allison away towards the forest. A shapeshifter has my baby girl, Ashlyn whispered. Maddox looked at Lucian. He'll be a dead shapeshifter, Ashlyn, we'll get her back. Maddox promised and Paris and Aaron grinned and went to the weapons closet. Torin turned to face Maddox. At least we know why Memento Mori was able to understand her so damn well. Allison had passed out when the man said he was Memento Mori and he tucked her back in. His hands brushed her skin and he shivered. It was so soft that he ran his finger down the side of her face and under her chin. She warm again, but he didn't remove the turtleneck even though he saw she wore something under it. Very slowly he pulled away from her and watched her sleep again as he had earlier. He'd heard her tell those 4 children the story of the man in the cabin, living alone finding the goddess in his forest. He knew Allison would never go alone into the forest, or at least without telling someone first. His kidnapping her, there was a reason his cause would make her laugh at him. He found their fortress years and years ago and then they began discussion about horses. He saw Allison walking alone in an open field and as a black stallion, he approached her. He remembered her face all too well. You're beautiful, she'd called him but didn't try to get on his back. He followed her home and she called out her parents and after begging, she was allowed to keep him. She named him Memento Mori, Latin for, remember that you must die, and he grew fond of his name although she often just called him Mori, death or die. When Max asked her why such a depressing name, she said, because his coat is black, Maxie, because he reminds me of it and now that I have him, I don't have to be afraid anymore. Mori will keep me alive. She had faith in him since the day she brought him home. Max, memento mori, he's my savior, I have something to look forward to now. He thought she meant that because she was depressed. Later it was because she had him to look forward to coming home to from her job with Max. He still didn't understand as much as he wanted to, part of him didn't care. He loved the name she'd given him. It didn't bother him one bit, what his name meant at first it had, but not anymore. Now he took pride in it. When they'd began their project with the horses, he honestly felt better, not as alone, but at night he would shift into a bird and fly to her window. He's seen her sleep awake and talking with her mother about her future. He's seen her shower, but he still respected her privacy and turned away, with gentle peeks every now and then. When she had longer hair and then came into her room with it gone, he'd been furious. Max followed her into her room and he teased her about it. Stop it, Max. You're so cute with short hair. I said stop it, you're so mean. She said, but she was smiling. He was just teasing her after all. After watching her brush it out, he forgave her and perched on her windowsill for several minutes before she saw him, the blue jay in the window. He'd flown over to her and she smiled. She's called him gorgeous and handsome. Then as her door opened, he flew out and back to the stable. She'd noticed memento mori's strange behavior but didn't tease him like Aaron or Reyes did. She even scowled at them for doing such a thing. She called him perfect and when they walked away whispered in his ear that she loved him. If he'd known she would be so easy to fool, he'd done this sooner. As a dog, that way at least he could sleep in her bed. Watch her shower and dress. Run and play with her. That way he could sneak her human kisses while she slept and go back to being a dog before she woke. He'd learned a while after entering her life that her favorite dog was a border collie and brown spotted Dalmatian. Last night when she'd been so upset, he knew that something was wrong. He could hear her yelling. The window was open. They all had heard her and her brother arguing about something, and then she came into the stable house and had the wine. He watched over her as she turned and jerked awake suddenly as she said his name. Mori. He sat watching her and she pushed herself up and groaned as she held her head, her headache or dizzy from sitting up too fast. He pushed the bottle of aspirin towards her. And another bottle of water was in the bucket. She didn't look at either item but him. Why? She forced out. Her voice was rough. He shrugged. Because I wanted you. I've never met you before. Remember what I told you about memento mori? She nodded. Then we have met. Well, I lied. He believed that. He cleared his throat, his leg crossed and his elbows on the arm of the chair he sat in with his fingertips together. I'm a shapeshifter, Allison. I became that horse years ago when we met in the field. You took me to your home. Are you a hunter? She whispered. He nodded and she tried to get up, but he stood and she fell against the wall. She stared up at him. I'm an ex-hunter, actually, technically. I faked my death several years ago when I saw you. You gave me a new reason for living all over again, Allison. She shook her head. Why? I didn't do anything for you. He smiled. But you did. He said and stepped away from her. She sank more into the wall, it seemed. When I saw you, I decided to change everything about myself. I was a good hunter too. Several people assumed I quit. Most thought I was dead. But to ease their pain and worry, I sent in letters explaining I met this girl and decided to stop working with the hunters. You and Max. I laughed then when I heard, working for the CDA. I was angry with you when you were gone for so long this one time months ago. Almost 2 weeks you were gone. She remembered. He knew her expressions. I remember when you saw me, waiting for you, you hurried with your parents and then ran to me. She shook her head, but stopped. She fell onto her side, seriously dizzy. The room was spinning. No, she forced out. I ran to memento mori, not you. I am Mori. Mori is me. I am the one you've said you love repeatedly over the last several years. Allison this time argued with her demon. We need to get out here, demon. You think I don't know that? She responded. Think of something, damn it. Allison thought loudly. The shifter stepped towards her and she jumped away from him. But he grabbed her wrist and she tried to kick him. but lost her balance and fell onto her back, dragging him down on top of her. He smiled. Prefer the bottom, huh? He teased. And she closed her eyes and looked away from her. Please, I want to go home. Please, she whispered. He shook his head. Why, what do you want with me? He frowned and she opened her eyes slowly, blinking to see him so close. I thought that was obvious, Allison. I'm in love with you. Allison stared shakily into his eyes and saw the truth behind them. His brown eyes were exactly like Memento Mori's, and she faced the truth by looking into his eyes. She was being held captive by her own horse. Maxwell, son of Maddox and Ashlyn, returned home midday and without his sister. He was surprised to find Nessie with his mother and aunts. She got up and parted from them and ran to the stable. He turned as she approached him. She wore a pair of jeans and an old t-shirt. Danica told me about Allison. I'm so sorry, Max. We'll find her, I know it. He picked her up by the waist and pinned her against his horse's side and kissed her. She gave in to him easily and wrapped her arms around his neck. I missed you too. Nessie smiled as he pulled away from her. Your mother came and got me. She did. Nessie nodded. Why? To convince you to rest. Eat, rest some more, and I'm going to Maxwell. How much sleep did you get? Enough. He still had her pinned against the horse and then he suddenly stepped away. I missed you, he sighed finally. She grinned at him. I missed you too. She repeated quietly. He took her on. And took Nessie into Allison's office room. He shut the door and paced slowly for a few minutes. Max, talk to me. What so you want me to do to help you? You won't like my answer. She heard him answer and her mouth shut. Her fingers shook and her lips smiled greedily. Try me. He turned to her and he went to her. He grabbed her hips and lifted her onto the desk and kissed her again. Her lips parted. Immediately and his fingers found their way to her waistband and she drew in her belly and his fingers undid her jeans. Nessie, I'm going to. He trailed off. Ahead, Max, she whispered hoarsely and he lifted her up to pull them off. Her own fingers weren't shaky, weren't anything but still and firm as she undid his belt buckle and his own jeans finally. Max and Nessie slowly undressed and found themselves on the floor of the office. Covered by a blanket Allison kept in there. Allison was sitting on the bed again, her legs against her chest and her arms wrapped around her knees. He was outside, doing some work and by the sounds of it chopping wood. When she's realized this man was the same as her horse, she'd congratulated him and hoped his death was fast and not as painful when Maddox found them. He'd gotten up and pushed her onto his bed and told her to stay. For an hour, now, she was still there, waiting for him to return and tell her what he was going to do with her. She jumped when he swore loudly and got up slowly, expecting him to come into the cabin with a finger cut off. Instead, she finally made it to the window to find him standing, facing the cabin. His shirt was gone. She nibbled on her lower lip as she studied his shirtless body. His biceps were probably bigger than Maddox's and he had a tattoo of the half-crescent moon on his back. His bulging arms seemed to be begging for her to touch them. She chewed on her lip now. Sweat racked his entire upper body and she closed her eyes. Suddenly her demon wanted to touch him. Stop it, she snapped at the demon. Why? He looks delicious. Can I keep him to play with? Fuck you. He kidnapped me. Me too, Allison. She had a point but Allison ignored it. Just please, go out there and ask what happened. The demon begged and begged and finally Allison got up and reached for the door when it opened and he entered. The demon sighed and Allison felt it relax. He stared at her as her eyes, uncontrollably, caressed his body. His chest. He breathed hard shallow breaths. His arms looked tired and sore. His six-pack, oh God. His six-pack looked to die for. Allison found herself wanting to touch him after all. He stood there, watching her watch him and take in his body. His muscles screamed at her, swearing and damning her to hell because she just stood there. Finally she took in air to ask, what happened? I heard you yell. He looked amused. Nothing, I'm fine. He winked at her and she cursed. He chuckled. She'd tricked him. If he had been watching her, he knew she'd come to check on him sooner or later. Was everything he going to set her up to catch him in the act of doing something to show off? Yes, probably, but she hoped not. She didn't move for a few minutes. She hated herself and her demon was laughing in their foolishness. This is your fault, demon. She disagreed. Ours. You walked to sea. Fuck you. Allison said again in 5 minutes and she took a breath. Do you plan on doing anything to me, Memento? What do I really call you? He ran a dish towel under the faucet and cleared his throat as he rubbed the back of his sculpted, tanned, hard neck, and Allison suddenly wished she could do that for him. I won't let you return to Maddox and Ashlyn, the hunter in me. I forgot he was a hunter. All right, kill him, the demon ordered, but Allison ignored it. Wants to hurt you and ask for info on the demons that possess you. But the man in me, the one who loves you, he's forgiven. Touch him, Allison. The demon shouted. Will not harm you. If I'm dealt with both at the same time. He considered that. A little bit of both. I'll have to tie you to a chair, but I won't beat you. He said. At least he's honest, demon, Allison thought. Damn straight. Touch him, damn it. The demon shouted, but she didn't go near him. What do I really call you? He didn't answer right away, just ran the towel under the faucet again and mopped his chest. Allison had to look away from him. You want to touch me, don't you? No, she lied. He smiled. You forget I've been watching you for years. I know when you lie, Allison. She blushed this time and turned away from him. She swallowed and wished she was tired again, to sleep because. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her and she closed her eyes and she felt his wet chest soak into her hair and sweater. His breath at her ear. I've seen you, Allison. He whispered and slid his hand down to her pants and his fingers over her thigh. He moved his erection and she gasped. Yes, Allison, I've been waiting for too long for you. Now, you're mine. She cried aloud when his hand slipped in her jeans. He smiled. I can see you want me too. No, she whimpered. Lie. He fondled her for a moment and found what he was looking for. He grunted when he shoved a finger inside of her and she groaned. Her hands grasped his waist and she groaned again when she felt him move around. Please, stop. How can I stop when you want me to keep going? He whispered and began to remove his finger. When her nails dug into his hip and he slid in another. She cried out aloud and he groaned against her, feeling her was what he's dreamed of for years. He's a patient man, he's waited this long. Shish. He turned to him and he removed his fingers. You won't get me to sleep with you. Yes, I will, he said and grabbed her hand and pressed it against the bulge between his thighs. His hand over hers, he directed her hand into his pants and she groaned when she felt him. He honestly thought she'd hurt him that way, but she didn't. Her fingers wrapped around his shaft and then she released him and pulled her hand from his pants. She backed away from him. Stop it. Why? It's working. I see it in your eyes. Let me touch you again. Take off your sweater. I'll remove these. He pinched his jeans between two fingers. Then we'll have fun. She wanted to. She realized she wanted to so badly, but not now. She was still drunk. But he didn't wait. He took her silence as her answer and he dragged her sweater over her head and the cool air made her sigh. Her satin shirt under the sweater was black as were her bra and panties. He found that out. She was pantsless, but had her panties on as he slid 2 fingers back inside of her. She didn't know where the pants went on him either. She was on her back and he was next to her, blocking her view of the door. She cried out when he pushed hard into her with his fingers, and then he told her about the third ad. She gasped, her eyes tearing, and she gave in. If she did this, she could escape. She pushed his hand out of her and removed her panties and his shorts as well and pulled him on top of her. Allison, I need you, she cried and he pinned her down. I'm not playing these games. What are you doing? She had rolled her eyes and moved down on him. She pushed him onto his back and now her head bent over his shaft. She took him in her mouth and he groaned. She kept her eyes closed and tastes the salt on his body from his workout he'd made sure she'd witnessed. Allison ran her lips up and down and her tongue over him. He shouted and laughed and pulled her away from him. All right, you win. He gasped for air and she did too. The demon made her smile. He shoved her down under him and used his hands to spread her thighs, and she yelled out as she suddenly felt his mouth where his shaft should be. "Maury," she screamed, "Maury, don't stop." She gasped and heard him chuckle. His taste buds sizzled and he racked inside of her, and she screamed again, panting suddenly, and he looked up at her. She was laughing. Her breasts full and ready to be tasted as well, her fingers tried to reach him, and he got up and she sat up to reach for him. He pulled himself to her and she let her legs spread, and he laughed darkly. "Now?" he asked. She whimpered and the demon was screaming for him to do it. "Maury, please." He smiled and kissed her breasts first and then let his shaft graze her skin, and she shivered. "Maury. Now damn it," she yelled, and he laughed again but didn't move. He sat back on his feet so she could see him, aroused and ready to penetrate her. He saw her, wet and ready for him to take her. She was shaking and sweating, ready to the max for him to enter her. "No." She looked up. "What?" she said desperately. "Maury, please," she cried. "Please, I need you. I need that." She pointed to his shaft and he smiled. "In me? No, you jerk, you don't kidnap me and not sleep with me." "Have you been kidnapped before then?" "Yes," she admitted. He got up. "Dumbass," the demon said and growled at her. "By who? I'll kill him for you." She grabbed the sheet and covered herself but left her leg in the open. She lay on her back, trying to breathe instead. That was the closest to sex she's had in over 1,000 years. He walked to her, still hard and still naked. "Who was it, Allison?" "No one. He's dead now. We were playing games, Maury. It wasn't a real kidnap," she admitted shamelessly. "He was a human," she added to explain why he was dead, and she looked up to see his expression. "You never spoke about him." "Not to you," she admitted. "Max and we have a disgusting sibling relationship, or at least that's what most people would say. He's told me about his partners and I've told him about mine." "More than one." "More than you think." That pissed him off. He pulled on jeans. Getting them over his swollen body was difficult though. "Oh. Come on. It's been over 1,000 years since." She stopped when he actually growled at her. She stood up. The sheet around her body, she gathered her clothes again. "Fine, fine, don't have sex with me, whatever. I will when I think you won't use me to escape." Allison stomped the floor. "Damn. I guess you never will." He growled at her again, but she rolled her eyes and got dressed but left her sweater off. She went to the sink and wet her hands and ran her fingers through her hair a couple times and turned to him. He wasn't completely dressed yet, just watching her. "What?" she asked, looking him up and down. He still wanted her, she saw it. "Angry with me? You're going to use the love I have for you to escape, Allison." "You don't love me," she snapped. "If you did, then you'd come to my home as you were and not spy on me as you pretended to be a horse." She yelled. "Would you have cared?" "Yes, I would have. I'm a very caring person." "Bullshit," he said, but he knew she got it from her mother. He went over to her, but she gripped the counter and kicked him as hard as she could. He fell back into another wall and she got to the door and shut it. Outside the sun was beginning to set. "Where? Straight. Not going to fight me?" she asked, amazed to the demon. She felt the demon shake her head and Allison broke into a sprint immediately. She could run over 5 miles before she got tired. Just 5 miles closer to home and away from her fake horse. "Keep going. You look front." I got back. "Oh shit, he's coming." I heard him. "Me too." Allison switched to thoughts to evade capture longer. She followed her demon's instructions directly to a cliff where she almost fell. "Jerk," she said aloud. "I didn't know it was there." She screamed. "Jump, Allie, for hell's sake jump." "Anya," she whispered. "Allison." She heard him yell as she jumped. Max and Nessie fell asleep in the office. His arm wrapped around her slender shoulders and her leg over his thigh. "It's been several centuries since he's been with a woman, Nessie." She made it feel right. He knew it was right. He loved her already so soon after meeting her. She's his match, his everything that he's not. Renesmee had wanted him badly as well. That early afternoon, she'd nearly torn his shirt from high chest and fought him eagerly on what she wanted. Max tightened his grip around her when he saw Anya. She was peeking through her fingers, she whispered. Your father wants to see you. Now, he whispered, but then he saw Nessie was awake. Yes, Maddox is anxious now, scared. Lucian hasn't been called to take her to hell, so she's alive and Reyes can't feel her pain yet. We should get dressed, we'll be right there, Anya. Nessie said, and Anya parted from the office as Max pulled over his shirt and tugged it on, and Nessie got dressed as well, faster than him. What's the rush? He teased. She giggled. I want to help your parents find Allison. You want them to like you, you mean they already do, Nessie. She blushed. Are you sure? Duh, he chuckled. Who could resist you, my princess? He smiled and she smiled and kissed him. Max and Nessie entered the living room and saw Torrin going over video footage and Maddox looking through some maps of areas close by. Ashlyn gave them a greedy smile and Nessie blushed again and took Max's hand. Anything new? Max asked. So, did you two have fun? Paris asked. Max glared at him and his uncle Paris chuckled. Take that as a yes. I take that blush as a hell yes, he added, seeing Nessie. Nothing so far. Maddox didn't seem to have heard their sexual conversation. Max, take a horse and look for her again. Maybe she's circling the forest. I never took her around here before, she's probably lost. Or she's probably safe, Ashlyn said hopefully. Maddox, maybe she did leave with Memento Mori. Maddox looked up, unconvinced, and reminded her about her all-day ride. She never did that. True, but she's always looking for adventure, Maddox. Torrin and Aaron agreed, that's true. But then Anya gasped and Lucian was at her side instantly. I know where she is. She yelled. ND shifted before Lucian or Maddox could ask. Anya, Allison whispered. She was backed against the cliff with a wolf facing her. She'd fallen nearly 40 feet and landed on her back broken, had healed almost instantly. But her leg was taking longer, the femur was shattered completely. Anya, she yelled this time, and her aunt appeared. The wolf attacked Anya first, who didn't have time to defend herself. Mori, not, leave her alone, she cried and went forward, but her leg hissed in pain and the demon told her to stop. Anya, get out of here. Not without sugar, she said as he bit into her arm. If she didn't heal before Lucian got here, he'd kill him. Come on, fucker, want my niece, come through me first. She growled and he did. He jumped on the cliff, then back at her and tackled her to the ground. She elbowed him and he whined. Allison tried again. Mori, leave her alone. Please, Mori, she screamed when he bit into Anya's neck and she cried out. She's never seen Anya have a look of pain on her face before. Mori, stop, let her go. He changed back into a man. He was naked after an animal turning. Anya stared at his face. Why should I? She'll take you from me. No, I'll return with you, I promise. But she goes free. He didn't hesitate. Fine. He threw her down to the ground, and as Allison ran to her, but he grabbed her around the waist and she screamed. This wasn't part of the deal. Back into the town, he snarled and she struggled. Anya, Anya, Lucian was coming. She felt him. Oh God, Lucian, don't let her die, Mori. Please, I'm begging you. No, he said and began dragging her away. Anya was bleeding from the neck and arm. Her fingers pointed at them. Stop it or I'll finish the job I started. She stopped instantly. Good girl. Anya, please, don't die, please. Think of Evelyn and Leanda, think of the girls. Lucian needs you. She felt a pain in the back of her head and then silence. He knocked her unconscious. Lucian got to the spot where the soul was calling him and he felt everything go blank. He fell to his knees. Anya was alive but barely. He picked her up carefully. Her neck and arm were bleeding terribly. She was pointing in a direction. Ignore Allison, baby. Come on, sweetheart. He began crying. She was gasping for air. I love you, I love you, I love you. Anya, I need you. He shifted and there were gasps and a loud, Mommy. Nessie, get them out of here, Max yelled, and Anya closed her eyes. Her daughters had seen her. She saw them crying already. As the twins were being ushered out by Danica, Maddox grabbed a sheet and wrapped it around her neck. Lucian, you need to back away. Aaron dragged a sobbing Lucian and Paris went to keep the four girls company upstairs. Oh God, there's a lot of blood. Max whispered. With Lucian, Nessie, the girls, Danica, and Paris gone, Torin, Maddox, Ashlyn, and Reyes worked on fixing Anya. Reyes wrapped a bandage around her neck and Maddox tried to get her neck, but he was shaking so terribly. Anya, we don't say it enough. But we love you, sweetheart. We all do, Maddox whispered. He heard Lucian in the other room. Torin, keep his quiet, he'll scar the kids. Torin nodded and disappeared as well. Maddox wanted to, but didn't ask if she saw Allison. Anya's arm was healed now. Dear gods, Reyes began. I beg no, I apologize. This entire family begs of you, allow Anya, goddess of anarchy, to survive. Please. You have seen Lucian change when she is around him. We all have one way or another. You allow her to live and we will give you the horses as payment. All of them, the foals, stallion, mares. Anya whimpered suddenly. He spoke faster. I beg you. He looked up. We're a family now, and you cannot simply tear us apart. As your servants, we beg of you. Anya grabbed his shirt and he looked down. Her neck. Kay was healing faster and faster and he gasped, thank you my lords and goddesses. Thank you so much, please, take the horses, they mean nothing to us anymore. He whispered and hugged Anya as Maddox did too. Lucian. Lucian, come quick. Lucian nearly broke the door as he ran to Anya as she sat up. She didn't try to speak. It hurt too. She kissed him and Maddox and Reyes stood up as Lucian covered her with himself. Oh God, I thought I lost you. Sorry, she whispered. My sweet baby girl. Don't speak, it's all right my baby girl, I have you back. Thank you Reyes, Maddox. Just luck. Reyes smiled as everyone ran into the room. The girls in front and Anya actually pushed Lucian away and she began crying as she took Eva and Leonda in her arm and buried them against her and Lucian hugged his three girls. Maddox waited for as long as he could before he asked Anya where Allison was. Maddox, don't be angry, she's with a shapeshifter. In response Nessie watched him leave and then something broke in the other room. There was only one shifter left in the world and Maddox knew him very well. He was a demon like him. He's the keeper of change, which is how he can change into different creatures. He and Maddox were once the best of friends and now he has Allison. Slowly it sank in. He might never see his daughter again. Allison woke up late. It was almost 1. She could tell. He was sitting in a cushioned brown chair and his feet up. His head bad and he was snoring lightly. She shivered and sat up. She ran her fingers through her hair. She realized her entire body was shaking when she stood up and fell back. She heard him wake and went still, pretending to be asleep. He grunted and eventually he was asleep again. She wondered if he slept in her room ever. Did he spy on her or anyone else in her family? What did she do to get him to love her? Maury, she whispered and got no response. The door trapped, rigged with something, she was sure. The window over the sink. No, too small even for her. The window behind him might work. She got up and was surprised to see that the floor didn't creak at all. She slowly opened the window and as she did, she saw the bells. She used her strength to pull her body up and held onto it as she hoisted her left leg over the sill and then her right. Holding onto the roof, still, she jumped sideways and landed noiselessly on her feet. She smiled and stepped away as she saw 15 wolves surround her. She clasped both hands over her mouth. Nice dog, just for a walk. Please, just a walk, she said calmly. Maybe she could convince them as he did to guard the house and keep her inside. I could have used the door. She hissed. Idiot. Bitch, shut up. I didn't hear you come up with an idea. I was asleep. Bitch, she muttered again and stepped to the right. Which way, demon? Of course. She got no answer so she turned right but the wolf closest to her snapped at her hand and she jumped. She almost screamed when they crouched to attack and she did sc. Ream when a large gray wolf with yellow eyes leapt at her. but she ducked and stumbled and climbed back into the window and fell over the chair into his lap. He watched her, lesson learned. She shook, visibly, and nodded. Good. If Anya is dead, you lose me forever, Mori. He grunted carelessly and shrugged. She's fine. I had my hawk check on her. She's alive, your horses are gone. I don't care. She shrieked and jumped off him. She took the footrest and tipped him backwards. He yelled and flipped over his head. Bastard. You could have killed her, and now Lucian will come after you for sure, and when he does, I won't stop him from killing you or beg him to not take your soul to hell. She screamed at him and burst into tears. Stop it, demon, stop it. You're crying, while making up for lost times. Stop it, she shouted and found her way back to the bed and curled up under the thick blanket and covered her head. Leave me alone. You've lost your chance to get out, Allison. Kick it into gear here. Instead, she closed her eyes, hoping they sealed themselves shut, and eventually fell back asleep. He watched and listened as she yelled at no one, wondering what was going on. Stop it, she'd shouted, staring not at him but her eyes closed. Did she realize they were closed as she stumbled to the bed and crawled under the covers? Probably not, apparently. He set the comfy chair back to its position and waited her out. He honestly preferred the chair to the bed anyway. The chair was by far more comfortable. She fell silent around 3 and he knew she was asleep. He had felt bad about her friend, Anya, but as of now, he didn't give a damn. He settled in for the night and fell asleep 20 minutes after she did and dreamed of them together. They were in her bedroom at the fortress and they were naked. She was screaming his name, begging for more. He shoved inside of her so hard, it must have hurt, but she welcomed the pain he was giving her, and eventually she was crying, pleading for even more. He didn't want to dream about them making love because then he might insinuate that from his sleep. When he jolted awake, he immediately looked to the bed and saw a sleeping lump under the blanket. He grunted and stretched with a yawn and got up. He showered quickly and got out of the bathroom. He began breakfast knowing for a fact that Allison hadn't eaten yet, but she didn't move. He let why things sit, and he went over to her and pulled the blanket off her. She was curled up in a ball, her eyes shut. She was dreaming something that he didn't understand. Allison, wake up. At the sound of his voice, she jerked awake and sat up. He couldn't help but notice her bare calf poking out from under the blanket and sheets. Seeing him, she groaned and turned away from him. Go away. I made you something. Probably laced with something. It's not, I promise. I don't believe you. She grumbled into the pillow and he used his finger to see under the blanket. She wasn't wearing her pants. He swallowed and set the blanket down slowly. She turned to him slowly. He bent over and looked her in the eye. Get out of my face, Mori. She snarled, the demon talking. Get up. I won't make lunch until this afternoon. He snapped and she gasped when he reached towards her and pulled the blanket off. Hey. He chuckled and glanced at her panties and shivered, fucking bastard. He heard her say, but let it slide. He did nearly kill her aunt last night. He served her a plate of food and sat down in his chair and ate as he watched her eat. She studied him in return. I'll get back eventually. I doubt it. I have the entire nature world at my fingertips, Allison. You won't make it home without getting hurt. Those wolves will just be the beginning. He promised, and she turned away from him. Her plate was clear. He got up and took it for her. He didn't get a thank you for breakfast, Mori, because he didn't expect one and he didn't care, not yet, and for now he'll let it go. When he turned back to her, she'd cked the blanket off her and surveyed her legs for scars from the cliff diving she did last night. He gazed, flicked her smooth and tanned legs, her perfect skin. He had to turn away suddenly. He heard her knees crack and he forced himself to not look back. Suddenly he felt her behind him. Her arms snaked around his waist and her body pressed against his back. Stop it, Allison. I'm depressed, she whined. This is how I get rid of it. Her fingers sneaked under his shirt and trailed his navel up to his ribs and down again. Her nail scratching his skin was making him shiver. He grabbed the counter and she pressed her mouth against his back and kissed his spine. He hoped she wouldn't literally stab him in the back. Instead her other hand came around him and undid his jeans. "Allison, don't you dare." He growled, but she did it anyway. Her hands, not shaky, by the way, eased them down his hips. "This is how you release stress. Can you say, sexual tension is in this room?" she whispered in her finge. RS found his hard shaft and she gripped it. He growled. "Did you just growl?" She giggled. She nearly screamed when he turned and grabbed her arms and threw her against the wall. She knocked into it and fell onto the bed. She shook her head and looked up as he approached her. "Come here, baby." She used her finger to bring him forth. She got up on her knees and grabbed his waistband of his boxers and he grunted when she tore them off him, ripping the thin material down the middle. He sprang and she laughed and had him lay down on the bed. Allison pinned him down. He was almost naked, his shirt was gone however in the blink of an eye, and she bent down and kissed his torso and licked his skin. He tasted like soap still. He groaned above her and she used her knee to touch him and he grunted, "I won't knee you, Maury." She whispered her promised and he only groaned in response. "Do something." She looked up at him. "Like what?" "Lick me," he said. "Allison, wait." He barked and she sat up, frowning. As he sat up, he looked towards the door and when he looked back, Allison used her hand to propel her elbow even more painfully into his face. He didn't even make a sound other than the crack and grunt as he fell back unconscious. "Bastard," she whispered and got up. She looked in his closet and drawers and found a pair of khakis and a black wife-beater shirt. She went to the kitchen, checked the drawers and found a paring knife for each thigh she to tie them in place. She tore his shirt into strips and tied them in 2 places. After she grabbed the largest knife Allison could find, she left the cabin and saw the wolves. "Back off or I kill each of you. I was weak last night, but I am fucking sure I can outrun you bastards." She growled. The demon was there in her voice. "Nice work, Allison." "Thank you, demon." She went past them, brandishing the knife at the closest wolves, and they snapped at her and she lashed out, cutting one on the nose. His whine and snuffle of pain sent shivers or torture down her spine for hurting the creature, but she didn't show her remorse. Not yet. She moved swiftly through the trees. She saw birds above her, but didn't think any was him. Allison slowed to a soft walk with looking back every few seconds. She expected a bear or something to come after her. Then she heard barking. It didn't sound like a dog, but it was barking and frantically detouring. She pushed Bruss out of her way and saw a fox cornered by a bear. The bear swiped his paw at it, catching his stomach, and the fox fell to the ground. "Shit," Allison mumbled, hating herself. She ran forward and threw the butcher's knife, hitting the bear in the jugular. The bear made a very upset noise and began to walk away. Blood came from the wound in his throat. "I'm sorry," she whispered and began to leave, but the fox yelped. She turned back to it. She swallowed. "Bait. I know it. I smell it, Allison. It's one of his tricks." "Run." "No, it's hurt." "Run, damn it, or face him again. His bed, his body. This time he won't show mercy." Allison shook her head. "Demon, it's hurt. Probably dying. I can't. He can do what he wishes." "Stop. Shut up. Go away, demon." She growled and went forward and knelt down. The fox went to her, and she reached for him, but a hand grabbed her instead. "Told you, stupid idiot." She cried out. "Let me go." "Not at the moment," he growled. He only wore shorts and his face was contorted into an extreme expression of, "You fucking pissed me off. Now you pay with your freedom and rights. You are in oh much trouble. I don't even know what I will do to you for punishment. If you hurt me, you'll do what exactly?" He cut her off and noticed she was wearing his clothes. He chuckled but didn't let her know what the real reason for his laugh was. "I can just imagine you trying to get free now." As they struggled, she began shaking and she weakened eventually. "Let me go," she begged. "Please, Maury. Please, let me go." "Not a chance." He winced. His face hurt slightly from her elbowing him. He dragged her nearly 2 miles back to his house. He shut and locked the door and pushed her into the bathroom. "Strip and shower. I have new clothes for you," he said calmly. He'd healed quickly, she noticed between the fox and bathroom. He's pushed her onto the closed toilets as she stared up at him. Fear etched into her face. He smiled when he saw it written and shut the door. Allison stayed put for almost 10 minutes. Before she stood up. The bathroom was bigger than she thought it was. It was kind of pretty actually. She started the water and removed her clothes and stepped into the water. Her eyes were slightly puffy from sleep deprivation and her limbs hurt from being dragged for over 2 miles. She washed her hair with his shampoo and soap. Before she knew it, she smelled like Irish Springs and men's shampoo. She heard the door open and then shut a minute later. She didn't care. She was clean. A towel was waiting for her when she stepped out and a pile of women's clothes on the sink, a pair of khakis and a black tank top, bra, and panties. She swallowed and dried off completely and wrapped her hair up in the towel and dressed quickly, remembering that the door was unlocked. She folded the towel twice the long way and draped it over the shower bar and noticed that he'd already gathered his clothes. She stepped out of the bathroom and saw him reading a book in his chair. He didn't look up at her, but he did begin to chew the inside of his cheek. His eye looked a little bruised now that she saw him without being strangled. His nose wasn't broken, as she knew she'd left him. He healed quickly, she thought. She began shaking again. The bed was made and 2 more pillows added to it. He'd cleaned. The sink was empty and the floor was spotless and the window was open with a screen over it, both of them. You did a lot while I was in there. You were in there for 40 minutes, Allison, he growled. He nodded at the bed. Sit down now or I will. She hurried over and sat down. Make you. Good girl. He said and cleared his throat. She swallowed and found it was difficult. I know you hate me, fear me, don't want to be here, but here's the thing, you belong to me now. See, your father and we knew each other long ago before he met Ashlyn. She didn't ask how he knew her mom's name, she's been spying on her for so long. We battled and he stabbed me, Allison. I died but thankfully I earned better than he could ever imagine and we became enemies instantly. You kidnapped me as a revenge kick. No, I spied on you to learn your weaknesses. I see how he watches you, Max, Ashlyn. He almost cares for you more than his wife. I'm his daughter, she whispered. Her eyes brimmed. I'm his baby girl. She whispered and wrapped her arms around her knees. Yeah, you are, but you are also the apple of his eye. Just like any other daughter is. If I had killed you, he'd been destroyed and I won a round. I have no family, no wife or children or even friends for him to steal from me. He stood up. Instead I did something worse. Want to guess? She looked up at him. Your spying turned against you and you fell in love with me. She said. No need to guess. He nodded. God, you're so pathetic, she whispered. Kidnapping me is a revenge ploy. Falling in love with me. What do you expect me to do? Feel bad for you? I pity you, Maury. He growled and she jumped against the wall. Growl, snarl, bite, lash out, whatever. Kill me if you want, but it'll only anger him more. She stopped. Not because he cut her off with a flicker of a gaze. A snarl, trying to bite her, tackling her to the bed and trying to kiss her. No, none of that, nothing like that. He burst into laughter. Allie, Allison baby, I'm not going to kill you, no, I'll do something much, much worse. She felt herself stop breathing. He stepped closer towards her and knelt on the bed and touched her face, and she looked away from him. I'll make you fall in love with me. That got her to look back at him. Nessie watched with Max as Lucian and Anya kissed and hugged each other and their daughters. She smiled up at him and he kissed her in return. She sighed and leaned against his chest and his arms wrapped around her arms gently. Maddox was upstairs in Torrin's room. They were trying to get a better shot of their old friend. It's been so long for Maddox, he honestly didn't recognize him and now he feels like a fool. Ashlyn and Danica went to Max and Nessie and his mother kissed his cheek. I'll find her. Maddox doesn't think so, Danica couldn't help say. Ashlyn however didn't cry, she just looked empty and walked. I'm sorry Max, she whispered. I shouldn't have said that. No, it's true, Max whispered and put his chin on Nessie's head. She smiled and wrapped her arms behind his back. Danica giggled. If this guy does have my sister, he nearly killed Anya, and Lucian will wait for Allison to be close to death or almost kill him. We'll be waiting for a long time then, won't we? Danica asked, and Max nodded. What about the CDA? Informed them. They're searching but without proof of life. I don't know, he said. Nessie stepped from Max to look at him. Proof of life? He isn't asking for ransom money, Max. Why would they do that? And I know you and Allison are two of the best for the CDA. Why aren't they working faster at this? She might get hurt. Silence between the trio for a moment. But she'll be fine, Nessie, and if she does get hurt, we heal much faster than you think, sweetie, Danica said when Max didn't respond. He only nodded. Max and Maddox, Lucian, Reyes, we'll be working hard to find her. Nessie sighed. Maybe I can ask someone I know. She whispered and looked at Max. Jacob. If can get a hold of him. No werewolves, Nessie, we shouldn't get too many involved. But Jacob can track her down. They have good scent of smell and there's several of them. Please, let them try at least. Maddox won't go for that, Nessie. Your father wants her back. Jacob can get her back. I suppose he and his friends will have to stay here possibly. Nessie swallowed. Or with me. Whichever house you're at. This much be the protectiveness that Nessie had heard about. He won't be. Fine. She almost smiled. But let's hold this out for a little while first. Wait and see what happens. He held her face and she nodded. Promise me, Nessie, please. I promise. Allison sat in stunned silence. He'll do much worse, he'd said. He was going to make her fall in love with him. The ultimate revenge wasn't killing her and letting Maddox find her body. No. Hell no. Loving this man, the man who Maddox was once best friends with and now they're enemies. Allison couldn't feel her toes and fingers. She pushed him away from her and he fell back and she stood up on the bed, her back against the wall. You're insane, she yelled. I won't love you. You can't control me that way, Maury. I will sure as hell try. Believe you me. He snarled and jumped up, and before she could react, his arm swiped out her legs from under her and she fell to the mattress. Now, for the new rules. Number 1. Don't go outside without me because I've told the wolves and the bears around this area that if they see a girl, he said, his fingers together and forefingers pointed at her. He was standing now, luring over her. They have permission to attack and drag your ass back here to my door. Number 2. He went to a new cabinet with a lock on it and the key around his neck. He unlocked it and let her look to see what was inside, an assortment of mechanical pencils, pens of nearly every color, Sharpie pens and markers. Dozens of wide rule stacks of paper still in the plastic. There were notebooks in every color available, about 20 of them. Then there were 2 scissors and duct tape as well. Allison could envision herself stabbing him with the sharper air of scissors and taping his eyes and mouth shut, her wrists to his ankles and around his middle. The tape would be connected to the bed or in the bathroom somewhere. He seemed to guess because before he shut it, he pulled out a notebook. Blue and mechanical pencil. He tosses both items to her. He pointed to the doors. On the top corner were 2 little boxes. What are those? Sensors that work too. RN off, I mean only if the key has been used. Pry the doors open. No matter how slowly, the alarms will alert me. Oh, before I forget, she crawled backwards as he approached her. He sat down and turned to her and grabbed her ankle. Stop. He snarled and she did. She wanted to cry now than ever. He clicked something into place on her ankle and when he got up, she saw it was a silver metal band, weightless and tiny. It looked like a normal anklet. That is the homing device and the signal coming from that. He tapped the key. Comes directly to me. If you step 50 feet in a fucking millimeter, I will know. Best to keep the distance close by, I think, he chuckled. This is all because I got away, isn't it? He nodded. You're a shallow, pathetic little man, Maury. He chuckled. The drawers with the KNI vase and everything have sensors on them as well. He said, just remembering. If I lose this key, we're fucked, he stated simply and chuckled. I doubt it will, so I'm not worried about it. Want to try and seduce me now to get the key or not? Don't come near me, she mumbled and pulled her thighs to her chest and wrapped her arms around it. He chuckled and went to his closet. This side is yours. When did you get the clothes? Not that long ago. He winked at her and she turned her face towards the wall, away from him. She heard him laugh. I have to get things done outside. Stay in here, rest. Oh, that reminds me. He went to the cabinet and opened it and pulled out a few catalogs and locked it again, then tossed them to her. Use the notebook and write down what you want. I suppose I can let you pick out your own clothes and books. Oh, set my house on fire, he added as he went to the door. And I will kill Max, his little girlfriend, those pretty girls, and anyone who gets in my way. He promised, and Allison looked at him. He was smiling. His teeth looked like fangs more than teeth. She gasped and looked away from him. With Allison aware of the rules and everything, he stepped outside and told the wolves they could leave until tonight. They disappeared instantly. He chopped up the rest of the wood and took no shame in his gardens. The rabbits and pests knew better than to take his veg. Edibles, he'd kill them without a moment's hesitation. This morning, after Allison had propelled her elbow into his nose, he woke up probably almost after she'd gone, but his nose was broken and bleeding. He changed the sheets, knowing he was in no hurry. His nose healed by the time he checked the mirror in the bathroom, but his black eye was still healing. He noticed the drawers were open but honestly didn't know if anything was missing. He rarely used the knives. As he thought about it, he frowned and nibbled on his lower lip. He snuck to the back window to check on her and he saw that she was talking to herself again. He didn't know what that meant and he was worried the girl he no doubt loved, was insane or crazy, worse, dangerous. Of course he could definitely handle himself and her if she was, but if she's insane, this might not be any fun. He grunted and returned to the garden as he pulled his shirt off and stuck it in his back pocket with most handing down his thigh. He's just started when he heard Allison scream and he turned and ran back inside. She was on the floor. She was saying something about Madrid. He dropped to her side and picked her up against the bed. You have to let me go. They need me. She begged. They need my help. You are staying here. You don't understand. As part of the CDA, I have an obligation to go help the humans when they need me. Please, shish. He reached out suddenly and grabbed his forearms. His skin already slick with sweat, she noticed. I'm one of the bet they got, besides Maxi Mori. He cut her up by picking her up and lying down on the bed, but she tried to get up again. He grabbed her leg and pushed her down. He heard her gasp and he felt why. Something cold was under the khakis. He frowned and raised the leg of the pants and saw the tip of a paring knife. He looked back at the drawers and then down at her. She backed into the way. I need to go help them, Mori, please. Those are mine and you were going to kill me with them, weren't you? She didn't answer. Weren't you? He bellowed and she jumped and looked away from him, her lips tightly closed together. He grabbed her ankle and she pushed him up to keep him off her, but he wasn't going to hurt her unless if she did something. He saw her hand go to her left and he blinked as he saw the silver blade cut him across the chest. It stung and wasn't deep, he barely bled in fact. He growled and she jumped up. They need me, she told him and ran to the door, but he turned into a wolf and chased her down. She screamed when he tackled her, bit into her shoulder and she fell. To her knees. He let go of her and went to face her. Her blood tasted sweet to him. She looked up and jumped up. She kicked him and he fell onto his back and she ran again. He turned back to human form. Nude, he yelled. Get her, all of you, drag her down. A second later, he heard the wolves snarling and saw a few running the way she'd gone and he ran on 2 feet to catch up to her. Don't hurt her, that much, he ordered, and a few backed away. The ones who knew they'd never get a taste of her as 3 held a thigh. Her shirt was ruined with blood and slashes across her stomach and breasts. He knelt next to her. Her eyes were closed. Her arm over her left leg. As he knelt to feel her pulse, she jumped, and this time, she cut him deeper and the wolves howled and snarled menacingly at her. Bitch, He muttered and she tried to get up, but 3 new wolves grabbed her and she cried out in pain. He shooed them away and picked her up and carried her back to the cabin. A slight wind picked up and he felt a little cold against his naked skin. He shivered and got inside and set her in the bathroom and stripped her clothes from her. She woke when the water hit her face. He was surprised when she didn't fight him. She slapped him. He honestly barely felt it. Bastard, let me go. You'll fall. You lost a lot of blood, Allison. Fuck you. He rolled his eyes but didn't let her go yet. Her right leg was bleeding worse than before and he swore, let me go. Please, I need to get to Madrid. He shook his head. You're not going anywhere, Allison. You can barely stand. I'll be fine. She lied and they both knew it. He hoisted her up more and let his arm go around her waist. The water going down the drain was red, his and hers. He remembered the wounds she inflicted on him and looked down. They were healed and he was hard. He chuckled when he noticed that. He moved her, so her thigh rubbed against his manhood and she groaned. Stop it. She ordered, but he didn't. How can you want this? I've been waiting years for you, Allison. He reminded her and she felt his fingers at her belly button. How can you not? It's been a while for you, I can tell. So, tell me you don't want to be honest with me and I'll stop. She groaned when he touched her clit and grabbed his shoulders. More. She squeaked. What was that? He didn't get to finish. Yes. Maury, I need you to do more to me. Gods, do more. He growled and Dee picked her up and turned the water off and carried her to the bed where they fell, soaking wet, and he slid 3 fingers inside of her right away and she screamed, want the real thing? He asked after a moment and she paroxysm. He chuckled and removed his fingers. Maury, please, don't, I won't ever forgive you for this. He groaned and moved to go over her. Yes you will. His knee parted her thigh and she groaned and held his forearm. Her leg, he realized, was almost healed, not bleeding anymore at least. Her shoulder was almost finished healing. Do you want me? He asked loudly over her groans. She nodded, whimpering, yes. Maury, do it now before I change my mind. Please, she added, and he grunted as he lowered his shaft head against the entrance and teased her. She moaned quietly and then he ushed and she whimpered and her nail dug into his forearms. He sighed and thrust in harder and pulled back and did it all over again. She screamed with pure pleasure and he laughed and reached back and Dee grabbed her knees and pulled them to her shoulders. She was slick and wet. It was beautiful. Allison groaned repeatedly, begging for more and saying she could feel him when he fucked her like that. Oh really? He asked and thrust painfully a few times. She nodded eventually. What else do you want from me? Prove to me you love me, she whispered without waiting after his final word. Prove it to me, Maury, please. He sighed and groaned in defeat. Ah. Gods, Allison. I thought you'd never ask. Against a wall, on the floor, the shower, in my chair, everywhere, she cried, and he grabbed her around the waist and he sat against the wall and she straddled him. Smiling, she held his shoulders as she moved up and down his shaft and he held her waist tightly. He probably hurt her, but she didn't say anything about it. As she moved up and down, his tongue licked at her nipples and her neck, her throat, and all over again. Allison lost count of how many times she climaxed. He did too, not for her, for him. They'd just gotten to the chair when he ejaculated into her and she pulled away from him. What? I want my child to be yours, he said, and she stared at him. That's why you wanted me, Maury? Of course not. This is the best I've had in centuries, he said lovingly, but Allison didn't move. Your plan is to impregnate me and then what? Maddox will welcome you with open arms and welcome you to our family. What makes you think I want a child? You do, he assured her. Of course she did, but in another few centuries. She'd love nothing more than to grant Maddox and Ashlyn a grandchild. Allison, let me do this for you, he said. Please. No, I don't want any children. Not now, Allison, he said again. You'll have to rape me then, he stared at her. You heard me, I can't. Well, I don't want kids now. If you truly love me, you'll respect that. Fine, keep going, he ordered, but she didn't move. She wasn't aroused anymore. Allison, he said and stood up. Her legs around his waist, she grunted when he met her against a wall, and before he knew it, she was ready again. That was easy, he whispered and chuckled. He grabbed her thighs and held her up as he pumped inside of her for the rest of the afternoon. Allison pulled her pajama pants on and a tank top. He watched her get dressed. They were both insanely pleased right now. For the last 10 hours, they've been making love and stopped for 10 minutes only 7 times to rest. They were wet from the shower they'd just taken and now they were sore and tired. She smiled at him and lay down beside him as he raised the blanket and she crawled under it with him, and he wrapped his arm around her body. She giggled as he nuzzled her neck. Did that satisfy your needs, lover? She whispered and he nodded, his head propped up on his hand again. Good. I'm so sore. She laughed aloud and he smiled. He kissed her neck and ran his hand down her stomach and to her thigh. What are you wearing? A pair of your pants, she mumbled, and he laughed aloud this time and rolled to his back, dragging her with him. This is why I love you, Allison. Tell me why, she said and lay her head on his bare chest and traced shapes below his neck. He wore a pair of shorts. He too. Okay, a deep breath and released the air slowly. Because you're beautiful, friendly, and you cared about me as soon as you saw Memento Mori, the horse. You're everything I never expected to be. She pushed herself upon her hands to stare down at him. Mori, she whispered, smiling. You're beautiful too. Gods, why don't you see that? She whispered. Her lips played with a smile. I lied to you before, she said and sat up. He frowned. I think I am falling in love with you even after a day. I know it's stupid, but it's not. Because I shouldn't. Maddox and you are enemies. I can be disowned for loving you. Allison, your father is a good man. Even after all these, I doubt he'll hurt you for loving me. Do you love me, Allison? The truth. She nodded and looked away. I do. I love you and I don't want to. I shouldn't either. I really shouldn't. But sometime between your pets attacking me and 10 minutes ago when I got dressed, she looked out into the cabin. I fell in love with my capture. I forget the name of it. She trailed off, trying to remember. He came to her rescue. Stockholm Syndrome. She nodded. Yes, that's it. She chuckled. I really shouldn't love you, she said again, and he sat up and she fell between his legs. Her arms around his neck and his went to hold her waist. Stockholm and I are pathetic, aren't we? Do you know why it's called that? She shook her head. Because a while back in Stockholm. Now I forget what country, but these men hold a bank hostage for 6 days. She bit her lower lip. As the time progressed, the hostages began to develop feelings for their captors and even defended them. This is insane. Those people and I need serious therapy. He laughed and pinned her beneath him. He entwined their fingers against the sheet and he kissed her. As he did, Allison realized that even though they'd spent the day having sex, he never really kissed her. The neck, cheek, breasts maybe, but not her lips. His lips felt like velvet and she held the back of his head to keep him there. She groaned when he pried her lips and he chuckled and then touched her hair and pulled away. What? We need to rest, he said, and she nodded. He rolled to the side by the wall and okay, one of the pillows and punched it to flatten it. Allison turned around in a circle and he laughed at her. What are you doing? She frowned. You'll laugh. He cleared his throat in response. I've never slept in the same bed as a man before. I mean, I've slept with men, plenty my share, but we never did this. You'll enjoy it. He chuckled and she decided to lie over his outstretched arm and snuggle up beside him. Is it wrong to hate myself for loving my captor? No, you have every right, but Allison, you can't beat fate. I know. She sighed and kissed him and held his cheek. He lay his leg over hers and she giggled. Overprotective much? I'm afraid to let you go, he whispered so quietly, she barely heard him. Oh, baby, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, she cooed and moved to lie on top of him, her ear over his heart. She heard his gently beat and kissed his chest and closed her eyes to fall asleep. A jolt woke him. He heard snarling and hissing outside. The wolves were fighting each other now. They must be really bored and angry with him. He sighed and moved Allison off him. He never saw her sleep so peacefully before except for when she was on him. He moved over her easily and stood up straight and went to the door. He stepped outside. He stiffened. He thought he saw flesh moving through the trees. Maddox growled. Nessie was waiting in position with Max close by. His brother, waiting patiently. He stiffened when he saw a hand come from the cabin. Allison took his hand and Maddox closed his eyes. Had he won her over? She smiled up at him. What is it? Her voice was calm, and not strange. She was there to be there, not going anywhere soon. I thought I saw something. She looked where he was. Maddox clearly saw she was wearing a pair of his pants and one of his shirts. Go back to bed, Allie. Then you're coming with me, no more than 50 feet, remember. It's barely 20. She giggled and took his other hand and pulled him inside. Allison, something is out there. No, there isn't, she said and touched his lower abdomen with her fingers. You're imagining things. Then where are the wolves I have guarding the house? She frowned and looked to see he was right. The wolves were gone. He watched her carefully. Allison, he said, and she looked up at him as she stepped into the yard again. The anklet spun around her ankle with each step she took. Allison, come on, it's late. She turned back to face him. Maury. Now, Max yelled. His voice was like Maddox's, so they believed it was truly him. He stared with horror. No, she's mine. He yelled and went forward, but Nessie beat Max and tackled him inside. Max laughed and grabbed him. Maddox dragged Max away from him and took over. Maddox, she loves me. Dad. No. He heard her yell. Reyes, let me go. Let me go. Please let me go. Stop it, Allison. We'll take you home. I'm staying here with Maury. Give her the injection. Torrin said quietly, and he saw Reyes inject Allison with something and she calmed down immediately. Good girl, it's okay, Allison. Maddox. We got her. He called and Maddox turned back to him. All right, old friend. Lucian entered and Max dragged Nessie outside. As Maddox and Lucian looked down at him, he stared back. Time to make you pay for what you've done. Lucian shut the door, but kicking it, Nessie looked up at Max as she heard someone throw a punch. She shivered and hurried after Reyes and Aaron. Torrin was behind them. Max had given Nessie a weapon and now he took it back. Ashlyn pushed open her daughter's bedroom door to see her asleep. Torrin was checking her temperature and Reyes her pulse. She'd woken up in the forest on the way home, so they had to up the dosage. She stared at her daughter, slept peacefully, her dreams tormenting her in secret with visions of him. Ashlyn waited until morning. When Allison woke up and looked around dazed, she spied Ashlyn and her mother came over to her without waiting any longer, but Allison jumped up and went to her closet. Good idea, get out of his clothes, Ashlyn said and sat down on her bed. Allison went into the bathroom and came out in jeans and a red shirt. She looked over at the window and saw the wind was strong. She went to the window and opened it. Ashlyn stood up. Mom. I'll be back. If they killed him, I won't be. Allison. Don't go back there, please honey. She turned to Ashlyn. Mom, I love him. The first thing I thought when I woke up was why I wasn't in his arms. The next was where he was and then how long it might take me to get there to him. Allison, he'll hurt you. No. I'll hurt Dad if he left him for dead. The demon showed and Ashlyn stepped back. Don't frighten your own mom. Sorry, I'm scarred and upset right now. We love him. Yes we do, she said aloud. Ashlyn stared at her but understood that she was probably talking to the demon inside of her. Ashlyn went to the door. Maddox. She yelled and she heard him a moment later. Allison held the window frame as the wings she had began to emerge. She winced at the pain and jumped up on the railing. The wings the demons have are large and reflect the color of their demons, so her wings were the color of dark blue with purple feathers and the tips of the feathers were white. She smiled at the wings and jumped off the balcony. Allison. Maddox and Ashlyn yelled but she was already gone. When he woke up, several men were surrounding him. He recognized them as the hunters he used to work with. He grunted and winced. It hurt to move. Someone told him to stay still and added that they thought he was dead. He didn't try to look. He moved his eyes to look around and saw people looking through the bathroom. the kitchen drawers, under the mattress and shaking out the blankets. "Good morning," a hunter greeted him, smiling enormously. "Did you enjoy your time with the demon?" He grunted. "That good huh? Wow, she must be good. Stay away." He was cut off when the hunter kicked him, his ribs all broken, his femur shattered and his head bleeding from several different places. His fingers were crushed and his healing was slow because of all the injuries. The hunter laughed loudly. "We'll stay away from the girl when we have her in our clutches." He growled and the hunter smiled and bent down to look at his face. "We'll get her eventually. She hates me, she won't come back here," he whispered. A man tapped his shoulder and said something. The hunter chuckled. "They always do." Allison landed. Her back was bleeding slightly from the wings. She ran for the cabin and approached it. "Maury," she yelled and shoved the door open and he was on the floor. He looked at her. "Oh gods," she whispered and went to him. "Go," he whispered. "They'll take you." "I'm not going anywhere without you," she whispered and bent down and kissed him. "I love you, I swear I do." "You have to leave," he whispered. "Please, they'll get you. You're healing," she whispered as if he never spoke. "Maury, you're healing." "Maury." She looked up, but didn't move away from him. "Isn't that death? In Latin I suppose it makes sense." "He'll be the death of you so." He trailed off and stepped forward. "Take her," he said, his eyes never leaving her face. Allison tripped one man and reached up, grabbed a drawer and the first knife she touched and killed 3 without looking. They took out their own weapons. She beat them back and most followed Allie as she got outside and fought them outside. 2 tried to shoot her dead but she dodged one bullet and got hit with the other but it went through her arm and she bit back the pain. She ignored it easily. The man, who almost died last night, needed her. 2 came at her, but he grabbed his wrist and used his own weapon against the second man. They both dropped down dead. She heard a roar and it took her to hear it 3 times to realize it was her demon coming free. Her demon was unleashed, something she never wanted to happen. Even thought it frightened her to know she was full-on demon. Now she laughed as she tore out throats, snapped neck, broke spines, and slaughtered. The hunter inside of the cabin called to her, "If you try to kill me, I'll kill him." "You can try," she told him as she approached the door. Her jeans were now almost red and her shirt was soaked through. Her hair was red with blood and her skin painted. She saw the hunter holding him and she stiffened. "Allison, are you all right?" "Never better," she whispered. "Release him now." The hunter laughed. "You'd like that, won't you?" "Forget that. I'm taking him and you'll walk in with me, willingly." "Bullshit and good luck trying to carry him out of here," she said. "Wow," he smiled. "When you fall hard, don't you? I'm a demon, hunter. When we have something, we protect it. It's the reason why we're allowed to love or care at all," she said and her features began to go back to normal. He was on the bed now, bleeding from his leg and skull. "What did you do to him?" "Hurt him. I want him dead." "Allison." "Ask me why." "Why?" "Because he fell in love with you." "So what's the diff?" "He wasn't supposed to." Allison frowned. "He said he quit on his own. He said that he came on his own." The hunter laughed. "You wish he did. We sent him to find your family demons reproducing. The 2nd generation is right there." He pointed at her. She didn't understand. He sighed. "In you, Allison. I'm not pregnant and you can't know either." "Yes we can. We have people who can see the future." Allison frowned and stepped back. "You're wrong. I'm very much right and we will cancel it if you hurt me. They were given orders to do so if I was harmed." "I'm not pregnant, because I can't get pregnant," she snapped and the hunter and him stared at her. "Surprise," she said and threw the knife at him before he could move. It struck him between the eyes. Oh good shish. Whether to say shit or shot Allison didn't know, nor did she care. She went to the injured man laying on the bed and knelt on the floor and took his hand carefully and kissed his knuckles. "You saved my life," he whispered. "You belong to me, Maury, you know." "He's right. I can't call you that anymore." He closed his eyes, smiling. "My name is Nox. Latin for night. It perfect for you. she whispered and reached up and kissed him. I want you night. I want you too, Allison. He whispered back and she crawled onto the bed next to him and lay down. She propped herself up on her elbow and tucked him against her side. You should change. I will in a minute. I want to bask in you. I woke up and I didn't know why I wasn't here, in our home. You'll stay here with me. I can't look at them the same ever again, she whispered as she got up slowly. He whined. Knox. I'm fine. Change. You need to sleep, she told him, and he closed his eyes. Allison grabbed a pair of clean shorts and tank top from her side of the closet and began cleaning up the bodies. She'd made a pile of 20 hunters, including the leader, when Maddox appeared from the trees. Go away, Maddox. Allison, you need to come back with me. No, you nearly killed him, and then almost got him killed. He defended you well for a hurt man. She growled at, and he stared at her and took in her red hair. Understand how much I do not want you near me right now, she said, and set fire to the bodies and turned away. The wolves gathered and whined. Take them if you like. Make no one finds remains, she told them, and they hurried forward. They understand you. Apparently, she mumbled and turned when Knox appeared at the door. Knox, you should lay down. I couldn't. Not with knowing they're here, he said, and Allison went to him and wrapped her arm around his waist. Maddox, please leave us alone. I'm sorry about what happened. Hades, Allison added, speaking to the air. Take them from here. He must have listened because the bodies and the blood disappeared. Allison's hair was white and blue again. He likes you. We dated, she whispered, and he actually chuckled. She helped him inside and saw that it was the way it was before. Maddox followed them. Go away, Maddox. I am your father and I'm going to take you home. Not without Knox. Fine. He comes too. Not unless you mean it, Maddox. Knox winced as he lay down. I'm fine, he said before she could ask, and she knelt on the floor holding his hand. You shouldn't have gotten up, Knox. Maddox growled. Allison and Knox didn't seem to either hear or care. Allison kissed his knuckles and he caved. Bring him when he's up for the trip to the fortress. I'll have everything ready for you. Allison nodded but didn't turn around as he left. After she was sure he was gone, she turned and went to close the door and hurried back to him, but Knox grabbed her wrists and pulled her up to him. She told him to be careful and he nodded, and she settled against him. By the way, I lied to him about the pregnant thing. He sat up so quickly, she didn't see him move. Are you? I don't know, it's too early to tell. But even after a night as we had, I doubt it. She whispered and eased him back down. He watched her until he fell asleep. Allison stayed by him and kissed his lips often and checked his wounds for progress, and was pleased when his head was closed. His hair grew back quickly, his skin meshed back together. It took him 2 full days to recover, and Knox woke on the third. Allison had fallen asleep in the recliner because she'd been reading a novel. He got up and went over to her. She was leaned back in the chair with the book over her stomach, the light still on. He turned it off and she jumped by the sound of the light turning off. He chuckled. It's all right. Are you all right? You shouldn't be up. I'm completely healed, baby. She hugged him and he kissed her. She pulled away. You need to shower, you smell like a bed. She giggled and he stood up. She frowned and he did too. You need help. No, I don't. I'll be fine. Oh. Come on then. She took his fingers and he laughed as he followed her to the bathroom as she pulled off her shirt and began the water as he undressed, and she followed suit. Max walked into his bedroom from the bathroom and a towel around his waist. Nessie was asleep still. Her body shape was perfect under the thin blue sheet. She hadn't gone home in several days and now Maddox has invited her to live with them. She accepted immediately, even though he loved her. He was worried that her moving in was too fast for them, but last night she showed him that it'd be a great idea. Nessie yawned and turned to her back as he sat to pull on pants, and she held the sheet against her chest and went to him and wrapped her arm around him. I have to go see my boss at the CDA, I won't be gone long. All right. Want some good luck first? He turned to her and smirked. Is that a yes? I hope so. He turned to her and pinned her beneath him, but there was a knock at the door. What? Maxie. Nessie slipped into the bathroom as Max answered the door to see Allison on the other side. She peered past him and saw the female clothes on the floor and smirked. I heard she moved in to replace me. Renesmee would never replace you, he whispered and hugged her. Did they know you're here? Torrens saw me coming. Let me in. You changed your hair. Max had changed a lot in the last couple days. His skin was darker and his hair was more brown and shorted and stuck up. You're the same. Allison shook her head. The changes are minor and on the inside, she said and looked away from him. Maddox and Ashlyn won't look at me like you are to me now. He chuckled and took her hand and led her into his bedroom. He shut the door and she sat down. What are the chances that we'd find them at the same time? I know, she laughed. Right, it's like it's the biggest coincidence in the world, but it can't be, can it? Together they said, fate, and Max nodded. Allison, why did you come back? Allison stood up as he stayed sitting. She paced and swung her arms back and forth for a moment, her head swimming with what to say. I'm engaged to Knox. As I am to Nessie, he whispered, and Allison laughed and tackled him. You're happy for me, I can tell. Max, I'm so happy for you. I never thought we could be loved by something, and now here we are. Both due to marry someday and to two of the greatest people I've ever known, and I'm so happy, Max, she cried, and he whipped the back of her hand against her cheek. I had to tell Maddox and Ashlyn, but they won't speak to me. I'll tell them for you, he offered slowly, but she shook her head and held her arms over her stomach. Are you okay? I got sick this morning, she mumbled. Knox wants us to move away for a couple years, so we're not confined by Mom and Dad. I told him I'd think about it. I want him to get to know them all over again, she added, and Max nodded and stood. What should I do? I don't want to leave, but he has a point. It's your life, Allison. Live it to the fullest. I mean it, because I am now Nessie and I are taking a vacation for a month to Europe. Mainly France and England. She giggled. My idea too. I had to convince her. He chuckled. Allison, she and I get along perfectly. We mesh, Allison. Knox and I, we mesh. I'm just afraid to leave. We're as old as they are and we haven't been apart from them for a long period of time. It's embarrassing, but it's true. He took the nape of her neck and leaned her towards him, and they touched forehead to forehead. We have to grow up sometime. Allie might as well start with getting married. Having a kid. He leaned away from her and she jumped up. I got sick this morning, Max. I'm pregnant, she told him, and the bathroom door burst open and Nessie screamed and ran to her. Allison screamed with glee and they jumped around a few times. I know. Oh my gosh, are you sure? Allison nodded. I'm a demon. I can tell Nessie. Wait until you become an aunt, it'll be so great. Max went to the door and called. Allison is giving you a grandchild in 9 months, so you two better show your appreciation. Allison and Nessie giggled as Maddox and Ashlyn shoved each to be the first one to the room. Ashlyn went to her knees and pressed her lips to Allison's belly and kissed it. Maddox smiled and hugged her. This is why you came here. To tell you. I just told Max first. She sighed and kissed her mother's cheek and hugged her. I'm sorry, baby girl, Maddox whispered. She touched his face. Me too. Daddy. Forget everything I said. I take it back. I'm sorry about what I said, everything that I said. I swear I love you. You're my favorite. Maddox and Ashlyn giggled. Are you here to stay? I don't know yet, she answered as Knox entered the room. Maddox turned to him. Daddy. He held up his hand. Whatever happened, he said, going to him. Whatever will happen, do you swear to keep her safe? Maddox, you know me, he said. I am in love with her. I will keep her and my daughter or son safe from anyone who tries to hurt them. Maddox, you know what I'm capable of. Maddox nodded. Yes, I do. He took Alice On's hand and Knox reached out for it and she went to him. The only thing I want from you is your word and your promise to stay here for at least 2 years after the baby is born. Dad, Allie, it's okay. I understand that better than you think. That's fine with me, and I'm glad you and I can agree on something again, Maddox. Maddox nodded. I have plans already for names, he said, smiling, and he and Maddox disappeared downstairs. Nessie went into the bathroom again and returned a minute later. Allison frowned and called to him. Knox, I do too. Ashlyn smiled and took her daughter's hand and then took Nessie's hand. Mom. I won't name my kid something stupid. I know you won't because he probably will. They laughed and Nessie raised her hand. Nessie, everything all right? She looked at Max. We should call my mom. Why? Nessie smiled at him. Because she and Ashlyn have something very much in common. Nessie didn't know if Max fainting was funny or Ashlyn bursting into tears and yelling for Maddox the better part of the news. Allison found her brother fainting the better part of the deal and collapsed into a chair as she laughed as Maddox and Knox came back into the room. The end.